All right, well, I'd like to call to order the Select Board meeting for Tuesday, October 22nd. Our agenda tonight is to have community input, then appointments and resignations. We're going to have a brief discussion about this fire station renovation owners project manager interviews, and then we're going to invite those firms in to the room individually. And then we're going to have at 9:10, we'll have a American Rescue Plan Act update, and then the town administrator report. We'll go through warrants and minutes, liaison reports, and then we'll have a last session of community input, and then we'll adjourn. So for tonight, I'd like to, with calling the meeting to order, it looks like that we have 4 members present, and David Modell is not present and doesn't look like he is online either. So with that, why don't we get started? And for community input, is there anyone in the room? I'd start with the room who wants to offer any community input on anything. Seeing none. Online, I see there, Debbie Bentley has her hand raised.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know how to hand my rate. I don't know how to raise my hand, but I'd like to do
John
it too.
Lavery afterwards. So
Okay.
Debbie, you have approximately 2 to 3 minutes.
I don't think I'm going to take that long. My name's Debbie Bentley. I live on Heald Road. I'm here as the co-chair of the Carlisle Cultural Council, and I'd like to invite all the select board to come to our open studios. The first one is happening this weekend, and the next one is in 3 weeks' time. This is where we have created an event for local artists and artisans to be able to exhibit and sell their work in their own studios or in some shared studios around town. So it's a tour around the town. And we have pulled this, I'm going to blow our trumpet a little bit. We pulled this together in 3 weeks, which is absolutely phenomenal. Most people take like 4 months to do this. And I wouldn't have done it had it not been for, the people on the Cultural Council and the amazing people in town who just said, yeah, let's do this. We can do this. And so it's a great community event. And so it would be really wonderful if you could come and visit the sites. It's all on our webpage. And you tour around the town and see what our residents are doing in the woods.
That sounds great.
They're creating amazing things, by the way. I'm really, really impressed by the workmanship of all the people that are on this tour.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Thank you for that announcement. And we'll go on to Mr. Lavery.
Hi, Travis. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm not on video. I'm a little
That's
unprepared.
okay.
I just rushed in, but I'll be quick.
I did forget. Please mention your street address too.
Sorry,
please.
John Lavery, School Street in Carlisle.
Okay.
For about 20 years. I'm focused on the fire station interviews today, and what I'm concerned about is your criteria, I guess, for selecting a designer doesn't include any sort of measurement system for the fire department itself. There's no performance measure or success measure or efficiency measure. And I've sent you guys documents before pointing to the ISO standards, the Insurance Services Organization standards, which rate every fire department in the United States and have for about 150 years. They currently rate our fire station 8B as a call station. And in the design process, I think it's important that the designer decide or make a recommendation about what they think the right ISO standard is for our fire department. Because if the right standard is 8B, where we are now, we shouldn't be designing a building to accommodate a 4 or a 5 or a 6. We should design for what we want. The problem is we haven't defined what we want. We haven't told the designers in anything that I've seen, this is the standard we want our fire department to perform at, and this is the building that we want that will support that. So I would suggest questioning them about what they think is the appropriate ISO standard for Carlisle and what equipment we need to achieve that standard in addition to what we have, or maybe we have equipment we don't need, and we could design a fire station that could be more efficient by getting rid of the excess equipment. And these comments are specifically towards the fire department side, not the ambulance service side, which I think is doing an excellent job in a bad space. And maybe the right way to divide this up is to try to remodel the fire station for the fire department and an ancillary building for the ambulance service and all the what would I call them, personnel needs for the department members, for the EMTs, etc. So we can get a clean building and a fire equipment building.
Great.
All right, thanks. I
Thank
was a
you,
little
John.
unprepared, so that took longer than I thought.
That's all right. Thank you, John. Appreciate the comment. If there are no other comments, I don't see any, so let's move on to appointments and resignations. The Diamond Park Subcommittee Charter and Membership. Ryan, is there anything that you wanted to report on that, or?
So, Mr. Chair, this comes directly from the Recreation Commission. They are creating a subcommittee in order to investigate possibilities for renovating Diamond Park. This is the charter and membership they requested. It just needs to be approved by this board or amended if you see fit.
I had a question, and that was, is there an end date on this committee? And if it's going to be greater than a year or 3, should they be given, staggered dates so that if it continues on?
So they didn't recommend that when they sent it to us, but you can add that as a condition if you want.
It's tough because they're
It's just
all
for the-
starting now.
I know, well, but do you start them with staggered ends? So there's
Ends,
1,
okay.
2, and 3.
How many years do they need? Diamond
Right.
Park, they'll be done in 3 years, won't they? Just
Well,
let them run and be done,
Okay,
right?
just, so it's just a purpose till the project is done. But I do think it should be, I don't want a committee on our books that hangs there and is not being used. So I would like to have, some statement then that the date, this is until the job is done committee, and then it just totally goes away and it's off our books. We've had that issue with other
Yep. Do
kinds
you
of
want a
committees.
sunset clause? Is that what you're
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
suggesting? So
That's what I'm
does anyone else
suggesting.
think that's appropriate? What do you think as far as a time limit, like a 3 years? Or do you want to, or specific of project? Is there a specific goal?
Well, we must have, Ryan, we must have some boilerplate sort of
If we-
language for that kind of thing, right? That committee that will end at the end of.
This one's very specific to this charge of coming up with a plan for Diamond Park. I mean, 2 to 3 years. If they need more, they can ask for extension if you
Yeah.
want to put a time limit on it.
And it's, the last line of the charter says, and they will report their findings directly to the Recreation Commission within 3 years?
Okay, let's say,
Within 2 to 3 years? Just add that
Yeah.
phrase?
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
great. Anybody else have any amendments or thoughts on this?
Reminder of my calendar, too.
Is there a motion to accept it as amended?
There's another one.
Yeah, did anybody put a motion in? No.
No, but you could make
Okay.
one.
I would.
Oh,
like
yeah,
to-
there
We
is.
have to approve
Right up top.
okay. I move to amend, you're right, we're getting feedback, okay. I move to amend the Diamond Park Subcommittee Charter as included in the packet with the addition of the phrase "within 2 to 3 years" at the end of the last sentence of the charter.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
I mean, I'm only saying this half facetiously, but I would love to know how you're supposed to pronounce the name of the park.
Diamond or Demon?
Yeah, so it would be lovely if it's part of their job.
Part of their charter.
They would
Tell us how to
give us a
pronounce it.
phonetic pronunciation so that we're all talking about the
Right.
same park.
Okay.
Make a motion on that.
No motion. No. All right, so we have, Kate had seconded it. Any further discussion? Let's do a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, so they have a charter. Now I think we just have to move to appoint.
members.
Yep, you want to,
I move to appoint the following to the Diamond Park Subcommittee: Sarah Wengert, Adam Cotton, Emma
We found it.
Etcher, I think it's pronounced, 60 Ledgeway, well, let me go over. Sarah Wingart, a RecCom member, Adam Cotton, a RecCom member, Emma Betcher, 60 Ledgeways, Aileen Foodie, 32 Lionsgate Road, Carolyn Abbott, 8 Nathan Lane, Eleanor Longman, 43 Partridge Lane, and an associate member, Jesse Pescatore, 509 South Street, and associate member Kate Garabedian, 137 East Riding Drive.
do I hear a second?
Second?
Okay. I just had one question for, there was a note in there about Jesse Pescatore. Did that get
Yes,
confirmed?
she is a resident, yep.
She is a resident?
Confirmed.
Okay, great. All right. So.
You have a
any other-
motion and it's been
Second,
seconded.
any other comments? All right. Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Okay, great. Moving right along. So, fire station renovation owners project manager interviews. Ryan, I think you had suggested before we begin, you wanted to have a quick discussion about it, or is there something you want to talk about?
So the plan of action here is that the OPMs have all agreed to wait in the Parlin room. We'll shut the door, we'll bring them in one at a time to ask questions. The questions were sent to you ahead of time. I'm going to read each question to allow you to pay attention and ask any follow-ups. They are ranked in order of what you sent to me, and then any additional questions, so it goes from most important to least important, because I don't know that we'll get to all 11.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's
I'm going to keep a tight clock. Please don't get mad at me for refereeing.
How much time each?
30 minutes each
and the
When's the
question's
first one
almost,
supposed to start?
at 7:20, 7 minutes. So, and the point of this organizational time is to just, if there's anything that you want to see done, or if there's anything you want to clarify in terms of the questions or the process, now would be the time to discuss it so that everybody gets the same interview.
Right, and Ryan, you're going to read the questions, and the point is that they're the same questions for every
Right.
candidate, so it's a fair process. I had a question relative to Mr. Lavery's
They all got it ahead of time, too, just.
question.
oh,
Okay.
they've already gotten these, okay.
But they haven't, does anyone here feel that that question, do we want to ask it or have some
The
additional?
standard, this ISO standard thing?
Yeah, or is that too specific for what we're doing at this point?
Couldn't we,
I
once
think-
we make a choice, have that
I
be part of what we want them to look at?
The scope.
Sure.
Can't that be a charge? There's going to be a design
Charge,
committee or
a
something.
design charge, sure.
Only
There's
because
a
I'm
whole committee's
not
going to
sure
spend
we'll-
time doing that, right?
We'll get that far.
Well, that's not really a design question, that's more of a what if, or not what if, what do we want? It's.
Was it, what do we, I thought, I didn't catch it all because I came late, but it sounded to me like he was asking, like, what would it take to meet this standard?
No,
What
what-
standard should be applied, I think,
Yeah.
is part of the question, and then falling out of that, there's the design impacts of the standard you choose.
We're not here to do a design review. We're here to pick
No,
a
no.
firm we have confidence in.
But as part of that first, the pre-phase, or what are we calling it, pre-design?
Yeah.
We're going to have to answer that question.
Sure, but we're going to appoint a committee, we're going to pick who we think can take us across the
they need-
finish line.
right.
We're going to appoint a committee of people who are.
So I don't expect them to have an answer to that
We should
question,
give them a charge.
but that's part of what they will
Right.
do in this first initial.
I think so.
Which we haven't specifically talked about.
Right.
No, we'll have
But
to come
we
up
can't-
with.
Yeah, well, that'll be part of what we want them to do in that first phase.
I've had a few questions too, just to take 20 seconds. So the owner's project manager works for the town and helps to guide the project. They spend the time to make sure the project runs well and to the standard of the select board. So there'll be 3 phases: the pre-design phase, then the creation of the construction documents, and then the construction. They work through us throughout. However, once pre-design is done, they will be helping us hire a designer who actually does the design.
Right.
So we're not hiring a designer today, we're hiring the project manager.
And the designer would require funding from the town.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's premature to be asking about ISO and this, that, and the other in this venue.
You've been,
Agreed.
difficulty's too strong, but you've been working with the idea of how can we know that we're building the right building. You should feel confident the OPM can help you recommend that, but they're not going to be the ones designing it. They're going to be
Right.
picking the designer that does what
Right.
you want.
Right.
Sounds good. And so our goal on timing, though, is, because I see at 9:10, we're supposed to go to the ARPA report. So our goal would be, if we stay on track, that we would have, 15 minutes before, end at 8:50, or?
So we
would
amended-
have, because the idea would be, I think what we said was, we were going to wait and discuss all three at the end of all three interviews, right?
So we did send out a amendment to this agenda that was more clear.
Ah,
So
okay.
the interviews are 30 minutes, there's 5 minutes in between for reset, and at 9 o'clock you're doing deliberations, and ARPA won't be till 9:30. So you'll have 30
Ah,
minutes.
okay.
Okay, so 7:10.
That's good. All right, so we,
We're
Got it.
we're now, and so 7:20, we would have to call
okay,
the first
Yeah.
one. Okay.
so 9 p.m.
So I guess, Ryan, thinking also, since they have already had these questions in hand, rather than spending, 4 minutes, some of these questions are very lengthy. Could we boil the first question down to the last two lines, for instance? Just describe the process and deliverables you'd use to ensure Carlisle to achieve our goal.
I have a
of-
plan.
He's got a.
Oh, you have a
he's gonna
plan.
say
We're
question
gonna let-
one.
okay.
We're going to let Ryan.
Okay, good,
run the-
good. Well,
run
I
the,
just- well-
He's the moderator, so to speak.
Do we get to ask
I
a
get it.
question?
Okay.
No, he's asking the question.
No, I want to ask Ryan a question.
Oh,
My question to Ryan is, where is question 4?
Oh,
Or what is question 4?
It was too serious a question, it had to go.
right, okay. What if our town administrator doesn't like work?
this is what happens when you're
Excuse me. Okay.
9, 10, 11.
That's funny.
It's like floor 13, it's,
That's
And
right.
everyone is, we're seriously need to time boxes, because I'm assuming you cannot give different times to different,
right,
correct?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to just cut them off mid-sentence, but it's going to be around 30 minutes, and same with you. So
Okay,
cut
let's
us
go get him.
We should really just shut up and listen
Go get him.
to these answers.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time here.
Yeah.
Thank
You all
you.
hear that?
Thank you, State. Thank you, procurement.
Yep. Yep. All right, so RGB is first.
RGB.
And
Red,
then-
green,
And then CMS and then Colliers, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to borrow a piece of his paper.
Hello, good evening. Hello.
Oh, hi.
You didn't see that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Short of paper?
Well, it's a long story. Still not firing on all cylinders yet. A little.
Hand them down, Dave. Oh, wait.
They all different?
Pages?
Thank you.
No, it's one.
Thank you. We're doing
Oh,
it there.
Hi, how you doing?
On the arm must be for receipt.
already have my name, but you know.
All right.
It's back double-sided.
Oh,
We get paid by how many cards we give out.
Okay.
Thank you.
retro.
What we did tonight, because we know we didn't have a lot of time, we put some of the answers on this piece of paper, so that if we ran out of time, or if perhaps once we leave, you have any questions of what we said or how we said it, that's something you can refer to.
All right, great. So just to let you know, you're here in front of the Select Board. They are the Design Selection Committee for this OPM and this project. We're in front of the public. Obviously, this is a public meeting and it's on Zoom. If you want to introduce yourselves, that's how we'll start, and then we'll get into the questions, please.
I'm David DeQuattro. I'm Managing Principal and CEO of RGB.
My name is John Racine. I am also Principal and Director of the OPM Division.
All right, great. Let's get started. So question one, the goal is to bring this to the annual town meeting in terms of funding the design. So OPM funds are set, but we want to fund the design at town meeting and introduce the project to the community. We've listed a bunch of goals, which you've seen, as I can see on your handout here. So the Select Board would like you to describe the process and deliverables you would use to enable Carlisle achieves this goal. And what do you view as the major challenges and risks needing mitigation to achieve it?
Sure. I'll start, and Dave, you can jump in anytime. My first thought would certainly be
Hold on 1 second. We have people that are remote.
Oh, closer?
So pull that a little closer, yeah.
Is this better? You're welcome.
Feedback.
Yeah, I can certainly hear it now, absolutely. So our first goal obviously would be to do a master schedule. We need to meet that deadline. So we put a work plan together, starting with the deadline and working backwards and achieve all the milestones and work on those milestones. I know it sounds pretty obvious, but that's certainly something that will be our roadmap throughout the entire project. Then we also would like to bring on the design team right away. That's critical because you're going to want that team to do the investigation, site investigation, have that team do the due diligence on the site and do programming and things of that nature. Then we'll take that team and bring it to the end users and really find out what the program is. What is it that the fire team is looking for? And then do a final study to kind of take that programming, take the pricing, develop a package that could be presented to your board and in the town. So basically for us, it always starts with the schedule, how are we going to get there from here, and then ends with the study and financing and timeline.
Any follow-up questions?
Very brief question. When you say the design team, is that someone on your team or is that a third-party design team? Just what would that look like?
Oh, we can certainly do it as because we do architecture as well, but we can certainly do the study. But my understanding is that we're bringing on a team, an architect, engineer, and things of that nature to do that study. That's my understanding. But we're certainly flexible. We can certainly work with the town in any manner that it would like to.
Certainly have done them, too. Completed a lot of sites.
We have.
We've done a lot.
So I think from our perspective, the first thing is really for you to understand
Sure.
and guide us really in what we actually need.
Oh, absolutely.
And that, to me, would inform your selection of designer and all the other things. So maybe you want to elaborate on that. Faye.
Oh, yeah. So there's always some there'll be some due diligence on our part. We want to take a look at the site, obviously. We want to find out what those restraints are. We want to talk to the fire department and understand what they're looking for. What is the end goal? And then we're going to talk budget and timeline. And we piece all that together in order to provide put a quality RFQ together so that we can get that team to execute the schematic design and moving forward.
And we would do all that. I mean, John was talking, he's done a lot of research on the building itself, what it was built like, how you can't go to that second floor.
Can you move your mic closer?
How you can't go to the, I don't know. if mine's
Is
on.
there's light on?
Is it on, Sarah?
It is on, yeah.
Okay.
Is it working?
Hear me now?
Okay, why don't we,
Share the mic?
Share the mic.
We can't sing together? Okay. So we've, John's done a lot of research on the actual site, the building itself, how it was constructed, how you can't put a second floor, how you have restrictions on wetlands. We would go through that whole the kind of gauntlet of a list of things that we can't do versus what we can do, and that will limit and give you a direction of what your choices are at that point. Certainly, he's done that research, and we've done that on several projects as well.
All right, moving on to the second question. So in the RFP and in the questions that we sent you, the Select Board identified 5 major goals for this project. This is what they've told the community is the reason for this project. They also stated that the project budget for this is 5 to 10 million, that's the hope, with the concept of an annex facility, so not necessarily a new building or a renovation, but maybe some combination of. So based on your experience and expertise, do you believe this is achievable to meet the board and the town's goal and to stay within this budget amount? Please discuss either way.
Sure, happy to discuss. When it comes to budget, it's always achievable. I think it's a matter of understanding what the limitations, if any, are there. So understanding the budget, you tailor the project to the budget, at least you try to, with some exceptions. Sometimes there are things that you just can't live without that may affect the budget. But obviously, one of the first steps when we do the study and the cost estimate, we'll know what we're looking for, and then we tailor that project to meet those expectations. So I think depending on what the end result is, what the programming is, what the expectations are, how many pieces of equipment are going to be stored, how many volunteer firefighters are going to be ultimately housed in the building, what other classroom and some of the decontamination locations, all that will dictate how big the building is and then ultimately what you're going to need to do to fit into that budget. So yes, I think it's certainly possible. I think there's a little bit of a road to get there from here.
So one of the, if I could step in there, one of the tools that John's known for is he keeps a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet of what your budget is. When we ended up public safety building for $30 million, the town had $30 million to spend, and we could do nothing else but spend that $30 million, and the whole thing was trying to save off that. So he kept the town, in this case the mayor, apprised of what the budget was all the way through. And they looked at things in terms of fire engines and police cars rather. They didn't look at dollars. Say, well, how many police cars can I buy? How many fire stations or fire trucks can I buy? So we will keep that running tally all the way through the project. So it starts at $10 million, and everything takes away from that $10 million. So you'll know in advance, as a committee, how much money you have left for contingencies, for additional. And then lastly, we put together a wish list. Now, wish list is what you want, but you may not be able to afford, and you have a contingency. So a certain part of the project you'll go through and you'll have some contingency left. And that's when we say, okay, now's the time you can go and pick some of that wish list because you have that money left. So we guide you through that whole process so that you understand how much money is there, how much money will be allocated and used, and how much money you get left. Okay.
I will add that it was a fun conversation asking, how many police cars can I buy now? And I always got kind of, it's like, well, do you want furniture or do you want police cars?
All right, moving on to the next question. So the town's looking to hire a firm that's willing to design or help us design the project that's necessary to meet the community's building and budgetary goals, not necessarily other goals like architecture, et cetera. So this might include some value engineering, creative design, alternate building construction methods like modular, which has been discussed. So how will you help the select board recruit and select a designer willing to consider these alternate approaches and make sure that we select the right designer? Are there approaches you've taken for other fire station projects where you've employed ways to help the town save money while meeting that budgetary goal, taking on these aims? So please discuss.
Sure, I'll start. I'm sure Dave would like to add. But ultimately, selecting the design team is a comfort level. When we put RFPs together, we tailor the RFP, or the RFQs in this case, we tailor the RFQs to specifically for the project. So when I develop these or I would write it, I would put incentives or cues for the design teams to show some of their alternative thinking. One of the items that we like, that we've done successfully, is do a pad ready the portion of a project first, and then do the actual construction of the building. So if you're not familiar with the pad ready, is that you're essentially doing everything to the site in anticipation of the building. And what that allows you to do is and it's ultimately two packages. So you'll do a package and put it out to bid and have a site contractor come in, do all the site work. You bring in the utilities and you upgrade the septic system and the well, which is what you have here, in anticipation of the building. And if there are some cost overruns or unexpected, unforeseen items that come up, it gives us the opportunity to change the design a little bit of the building to accommodate for those unforeseen items. And then when that building goes out to bid, you're tailoring that project closer to the budget and to those items. Once we tailor that RFQ, we certainly would review and talk to the design teams with you, make recommendations and things of that nature, and see if it's the right fit. And then, obviously, we would take a look at other cost-saving methods all the way through the project. You know, is it what type of non-combustible material would it be? Is it better to do a steel versus CMU or things of that nature? A lot of that depends on the market and what's available in this area. So we'll keep track of those things as the project goes through. So those are some of the items that we'd recommend.
I always like to give examples because it shows you what we've done in the past and how we've done it successfully or not successfully. This was North Kingstown Fire Station. It was
Which one?
North Kingstown Fire Station, Rhode Island, and a client had a $7.5 million bid that he hired another architect do, and he didn't have that kind of money. He had $3 million to do it. So he came to us and he says, "Can you do that?" So you had mentioned modular. The word modular to me also means pre-engineered, something that's done. So think about this. Think about everything you have in front of you, whether it be shoes or your computers, are all modular in base. If they weren't, every shoe would be designed individually, every computer would be designed individually. So someone in the industrial era told us or found out that when you made things in a certain way, you could reduce the cost. That was the idea we had. So we did a pre-engineered metal building for a fire station opposed to a brick and block, brick by brick type fire station. We were able to come down on that budget. We got that project for doing that. So we would do a similar thing to you. We would look outside the box. Is there another way of designing and building it, perhaps, using a third-party cost estimator alongside of us? We do estimating inside the office, but we also will use a third party as well to bounce that off. And those are some examples of what we could do to reduce that.
Follow-up questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to question 4. Please discuss your recommended staffing plans for the Carlisle project. Tell us whether or not that team's here tonight, and if there will be a person assigned to the project solely.
Yeah, so I will be your representative. I'm the face of the OPM division, and I would be your main contact. But I do also have resources that I would lean on. Bill Marchetti would be my senior project manager, and I also have a field representative. It'll be Dave Green for this project. So we don't change the team once we get on there. Unless there's a major issue and we can't get that team number out there, we tend to stick with that.
What about,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Sure.
I was going to say, what about, like, if you need specific fire station expertise, NFPA standard, those types of things? How do you handle that?
Sure. Well, we have a lot of our own personal knowledge because we do a lot of design work as well. So we have a good background as well. And we do have resources that we'd use, like BER is one of our MEP consultants that we would use. SLS is another code-specific fire suppression system company that we'd use. So we do have a number of resources that we would reach out. A lot of times we would also bank on the design team, right? That's why we're hiring them. So if we know obviously quite a bit about these systems and these facilities. So if we find that something doesn't quite pass mustard, we'll certainly ask them to verify, confirm, or we will go out to a third-party consultant ourselves.
I think you had it on that one.
He always likes adding.
Follow up. And I apologize if you had it in your proposal. I didn't see it anywhere in the proposal, which is, can you tell us a little more about sort of these different phases, which members of your team are going to be on site when, and then when they are on site, how much time they're giving to us, let's say, on a weekly basis?
Sure. So I do a lot of the front end stuff. So basically, prior to construction, I'll do a lot of the legwork, set up the budget, set up the schedules and things of that nature. Bill and Dave Bill would take care of a lot of the, once we start getting into design, he'll do some of the peer review work and some of the, take on some of the budget review responsibilities. And then during construction, Dave Green is my field representative. So Dave and I have been working together for quite some time. We're actually just finishing up, I know it's another question, but we're just finishing up a major project, multi-building project in Hopkinton. So when that's done, it'll be a great dovetail. This project would work perfectly for our schedule. So I anticipate Dave, his availability is certainly up to the board and how much availability you would like us. He could be out here full time, or if budget doesn't allow, he could be out here periodically during. But at least we want him at least once a week or more.
But at least what?
At least once a week or more during construction.
But if we wanted him to be here every day,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
You can do that as well. Oh, I'm sorry.
during construction.
Yeah, right now up in Hopkinton, he's there every day. We have actually 1.5 to 2 guys there every day, depending on the need. So construction goes in phases. Initially, it starts very slow, then it goes very high, and then when you end up, it goes very slow, and then when you finalize, it goes very high. When we have to finish it all. So we put staffing as we need it. They're in place to man the operation. I got question 5.
All right, great. Moving on to question 5. So there are, as you've seen in the RFP and discussions, there are several phases to this project: pre-design, design, and construction. Given that all OPM firms have different strengths, the select board's desire to work with one designer, why are you the right firm to take the select board through this entire process?
So I got to say, I probably think, and maybe I'm biased, but I think probably we're better suited than any other firm. That's expected, right? I'm going to say that, right? I'm not going to say anything else, but I can back it. So we've been doing OPM and owner's representatives since the 1970s. In the 70s, we used to call them owner's rep before they were owner's project managers. I've been at the firm since 1992 when I first started there. And then it's kind of been drilled into us since then that you give the quality you want for the owner, so the owner is so happy that they call you back for the next project. 85% of our projects are repeat customers. And that's what we do, we give it. So that question, the last question you asked is how much people you need down there. We'll throw everything we got at it to make sure the job gets done right and gets done responsibly so that you call us back for another project in the future. Now, with that said, our task since the 70s has been the same thing, to look after the owner's interest. So even when we're doing straight design work, we're heavy onto the CA portion, the construction administration portion, because we believe that's the greatest point of liability for all parties. And that's when a project can really get either success or not successful, fully done, through either the work is not being right, or trade issues, or supply issues. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So we feel, because we have the design background, being architects, being contractors, being project managers, we have that full market, that there's no one that can bluff us. There's no one that can come in front of us and tell us one thing where they think we're thinking something else. And it's really something we haven't really seen in our years of doing this. We've kind of seen it all. So, I mean, Bill Marchetti has 40 years experience. I've got 35 years. John has 25 years experience. Dave Green has 35 years. We're talking a lot of veterans here that have taken a lot of years, that have done this, that have seen this. So there's, as John alluded to before, there's a process, and we'll take you through that process. So I hope that answers that question.
Any follow-up questions? Great. Question 6. Workload's a concern for the select board, your workload and your ability to manage this project for the next year or two. So describe your current workload as it relates to this project's projected timeline, and how can the select board be sure you have the time and resources necessary to make Carlisle a priority?
Sure. As I mentioned before, we've been working for the past 4 years, actually 4 years plus, in Hopkinton. So basically, I would like to take my team and park it here, if that's possible. So we certainly have the resources. We can certainly devote the amount of time that you need. We also don't want to overload the project. We want to make sure that we give you the service that you're looking for. But it's a great project, and I think 1 to 2 person or 3 person staff is certainly going to be sufficient for this size. I'd love to put 5 or 10, but we're not doing you a service by doing that. So depending on the design team and the contractor, I think as things progress, we certainly can provide as much or as little project management or support as you need. And we're very flexible that way.
All right, great.
It sounds like, oh, sorry. It sounds like you will have other projects going on, but a different team will be managing those.
That's correct. Yeah. Yep.
John manages, he's the director, so he manages all the OPM.
All the projects you're working on.
Yes, yeah, but obviously I have support. So if I'm putting your budgets together and I'm putting your schedule together, focus is on your project. And then, there is some delegation. I do have to support them. I do have to rely on my teams as well. I can't do it all. But yes, that's absolutely, we have more than enough support to take care of this project, that's for sure.
And I think the word you're looking for is dedicated. So we do have the dedicated staff for the project, and we'd assign those dedicated people for that.
Which is the Marquetti and, sorry to say last names, and David Green. Those two are the dedicated staff.
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
I just want to ask a follow-up that also relates to the earlier questions, just so I get it clear in my head. I think a big part of this project that may be different than the norm is that pre-design phase, where, you talked about bringing in the design team. We as a select board are looking for an OPM that can help us in that initial define the requirements, define the correct standards, work with the various stakeholders to really kind of come to agreement on what the requirements are before. And I don't know where that interfaces with the selection of the design team, but from your staffing standpoint, is that something that your team would do, or do you feel like you need to bring in the other resources for that initial upfront work? Because I think that's what, as a committee, we're not struggling with, but that's I think needs more attention right now than maybe some other projects that you've seen.
Sure. No, we are, I've personally done a number of DCAM certified projects or studies here in Massachusetts. So doing studies is not an issue. And our team is certainly capable of doing a number of studies on fire stations in particular. I mean, that's, I think, one of the things that Dave was alluding to with respect to being architects, OPMs, and contractors is that we're, as the designer in general, a lot of times before the OPM became such a popular thing, we were the first ones in. We're the team that was brought in to develop that study, to do the study, and then a lot of times they'd bring in an OPM to monitor construction. Things have changed a bit where the OPM tends to be the first in now, but that's perfect for us. I mean, that's what we do. So we're certainly capable of providing you a pre-construction or pre-design study on your facility so that it's something that could be attached to the RFQ to allow the design team to bid on. Absolutely.
Yeah, we could go all the way. We could do schematic design, bring it all the way up to schematic design with a cost estimate, have basic design engineers around us and support us. So as a committee, you would have an understanding of the size, the cost, the systems, and all be on the same page, and then give that to a design firm to finish that off. Those are typically called bridging documents. So you'd produce bridging documents, and that should also narrow the price of designers, because now you've given them all the answers.
And the other piece that's important for us is the community outreach, to inform the community, to get their buy-in so that we can take it to town meeting, to get the funding, to take it to the next large step. And I presume you have experience with that as well.
Yeah, bond referendums and then selling it, absolutely. We'd go to public meetings. That's kind of where I step in. We'd go to public meetings. The biggest thing we offer is, you want to get the public engaged before you have a question. You go to that town meeting in May. You want to get them engaged. You want to get them excited, but you want them to see why there's a need, why you want to do this. I just don't want to provide, my taxes are going to go up. When people find out what they're going to be used for and the benefit to them, they're all behind it. And you want to get that energy going. It's usually some other meetings you have with them. You invite them, you give some refreshments around the table. People come there, they introduce, you have it at the fire station itself. You show them what the problems are. And they're going to be people that go behind you to support you through that town meeting.
I mean, I like that approach, but the concern, and that is the right, approach, I think, marketing, but the concern is timeline, right? So we're roughly 6 months out from the town meeting for spring of '25, and we're not going to have time to, I think, gather the schedule and the needs and then do a schematic and then market that. There won't be time. So it still has to be two-stepped, right?
Depends on, this is a $10 million job. We're a 30-person firm.
Yeah.
We could probably do the whole construction documents for you in 12 weeks.
Yeah. Well,
All to bid, we could, but
Yeah.
I'm saying it's your pace. So when John alluded to a schedule, you agreed on a schedule, you stick to that schedule. You put the resources as you need them to get it done.
right.
We don't see May as a hindrance.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I have a technical question for Ryan, though. If the bridging strategy that David's alluding to would be a different RFP, right? That wasn't what was requested here, or you could see that that's within the scope as proposed?
It could fit. We'd have to talk about it, but it could fit.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so this will be the last question. We have about 3 minutes left. I'm not going to throw you out, but we got about 3 minutes left. So I'm going to combine. I'm going to combine 7 and 9. So we have limited staff time here. There will be a volunteer board dedicated to this project, a building committee board, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And of course, the select board will want to be part of the communication process. So we think communication is an important part of this relationship with people who are coming in and out as volunteers of the project, and then of course you'll be engaging daily with staff. So what is your communication frequency approach? How do you communicate during these projects to help everybody feel informed and comfortable?
It's very similar to the question I just answered. It's gathering that support. It's finding out what those people needs and wants are. If you're a committee based on 6, 8, 12, we've had committees that have been 20 people. The hardest thing about a large committee, you want to get a core group together. That core group represents and be able to pivot as needed even during construction. So it's finding the core group, it's finding the individuals, but it's also communicating back to the larger group of the needs and wants. So what John had alluded to earlier is we take you down that road, initially very slowly about what you want. We identify it by meeting on site so that the whole committee understands what the issue is at the building. The whole committee gets to interview. If they're not there for those meetings, then we set up a schedule where they are there in those meetings, and we make those milestone dates there that people can attend those. Once you get that core group, like we're doing in Canton right now at the library, we got a core group going on with a major restoration building going on. That core group makes decisions daily sometimes during construction. So we would get you energized for that, and we would then report back to the larger group. So even though you may not be part of that core group, you know what's going on. We set up a website so everyone knows what's going on the website in town. So there is no one's looking at it from, I don't know, I'm not close enough, I don't know what's going on. It's communication, communication, communication. That's what we're all about.
All right, we have time for 1 or 2 follow-ups there, if anybody has any. Can you describe what one of your weekly reports or what your actual documents look like?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. So every committee is a little different. Most of the committees that I've been with or have done recently have been meeting at least once a month or once every 2 weeks. So I'll have a project update that gives you what the project status is, what the critical decisions are for that particular meeting, and then what the future schedule is looking like, and then any financial requirements or any financial issues that'll be part of the report. And it's a brief one. It's almost a dashboard. And then we provide you a letter or a recommendation with every bill or requisition that we review. That's part of our submission. We maintain your budget, which is a spreadsheet of what was estimated, what was, a lot of times what was come in as bid, what's been spent, and what's left. I know it sounds like a lot, but as we go through it, you'll pick it up. There's be no problem. And then we also maintain the schedule as periodically as we go through. So the idea is that we give you as much detail as you would like, but we also don't want to burden you with the minutia. I'm not going to, unless it's something that the board would like. A lot of times it's colors and things of that nature or finishes, so all that stuff comes through. But I will say that we don't want to burden the board with a million decisions if they don't need to be. But we're happy to do that as much as the board feels comfortable. I'm just finishing up a project now. We were putting in a field. That was the OPM for it. It was a 5 a 5-meeting discussion on the logo for the school. So every color was selected by the board, then it had to go to the school board as well. So it went from the the building committee to the bigger board to the school board. So one other recommendation I would have is not have too many boards. It's great.
What do you think Concord just went?
Yeah, just I'm joking, but we just have to make sure that if it does have to go in front of 3 boards to get the contractor paid, for example, as happens, right? So you got to go through one board, get approval, makes a recommendation to the next one, then to the next one. We just have to plan all that out as it goes through, because there's nothing that slows up a project faster than not quick payment. So.
Yeah, yeah.
I could say, after doing this for several decades, you want to get excited. You guys are probably not getting paid to do this. You have to show up. You put oodles of hours into it. You put something in, you want to get something back. It's get that excitement going. It's generating that excitement. And if you can generate that excitement from within, you can generate it from outside, and people can actually see it. You want to be excited when you come to these meetings. You want to find out what the next steps are. You want to have that behind that, and you'll get that momentum. I've done countless school projects and public bond
safety
projects,
projects.
public safety projects.
Fire station.
You want to get people behind you. You get great friends. You develop great relationships that last longer than this project. And it's always something you can go around and say at a later time, hey, do you remember we had that issue? Like I did this great $30 million school. We did it on time, and it came down to the last pump. The fire pump was wired the wrong way. Didn't know, took it out of a box, you install it, it's working the opposite way. Almost stopped the whole school from going on. We did it 24 hours. We were there till 10:30 at night. But those are the best days I had, because you get to really know people when you're there 10:30 at night and you're waiting for something to happen. It's really fun. And that's what you want to make it. You want to make something fun, because you get it done and you're successful and you're happy at the end. And that's what we try to do.
Well, gentlemen, I'd like to thank your team for taking the time to put this together. I know it's a lot of work to respond to these. The Town of Carlisle and Select Board really appreciate you coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for your
I
presentation.
really appreciate
Forward to hear
You
from
got it.
providing this.
Regardless of what your decision is, we wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does the- Are you sure it's not working? Is it just?
All right. To the board, I'd have you
fine.
put away the materials I gave you.
Yep,
You have 3 minutes.
we have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, I like it.
Right, because we're
Military
not having a
time.
full-blown discussion now, right? We're doing it.
No, no,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and CMS is next, okay.
Yeah, they're going to need the mic more than me. Who's next, CMS? Who's next, CMS?
Yeah, CMS is next.
Do you have any questions, adjustments, concerns about the questions or process?
Well, I just want to make sure that the alignment between what, as a select board, we're expecting to happen over the next 6 months and what all the OPMs are expecting to do.
Right.
And I know this is a challenge on this project where that pre-work. So I'm curious to see if that continues to be a question mark with the different presentations, because I wasn't convinced that what they were presenting was in alignment with what we're
I agree
looking
with
for
you.
in the near term.
But I mean, that's for them to interpret what we've said.
Yeah, right. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Am I the only one?
No.
Okay.
No, I agree.
Absolutely. Some of this is seeing their approach. If they
Right.
intuitively pick up on what we're looking for,
Right.
that's going to be helpful.
That's something, yeah.
All right, I'm going to get the next firm.
Yep.
Nobody needs any more time?
Nope.
Well, 3 of them.
And I also didn't think they had any idea about this.
Just remind them about speaking into the mics. We have 2 mics on the table.
We replaced one.
You have to wait and see the other one.
No, that's
Took one off
took
and
one off there,
Scott
right.
put his on.
Right.
Yeah.
my worries.
All right, so this is,
What do you want? You know what I mean? Is that gonna just,
this is CMS.
how do we get over that hump?
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think we should have a big timer.
Should have an hourglass
You know,
with
that
sand
says,
in it.
Yeah,
Wait, they have those on Senate hearings and stuff.
yeah. Yield my time.
Oh, yeah, and you see it right there. It's
If anyone feels shorted, I can get a wheelchair.
Hi.
Hi there. Great.
Good.
I have several of your cards.
How do you do?
Nice to meet you.
Just to put your materials away. Commissioner.
Travis.
Hi, I've seen you before. I'm Barney Arnold.
Thank you.
All right, good. Hello, Neil. Thank you. Hi, how's it going? Yeah, hi.
Hello, how do you do?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Kim?
Hi. Yeah, good to see you.
Watch your step.
Hi, it's Travis Snell.
Good to see you again.
Oh, hello, how do you do? Thank you.
I'm good, Neil. Yeah.
A lot of people. Are these
Steve, Scott, nice to meet you. Thank you. Steve, Scott, and Neil.
Maybe, please.
Get these in the right order, because I'm terrible with names.
No, yeah. Well, yes, depending on if you say yes.
Steve, Scott, from Neil to Steve. There we go.
At first, we got there.
Them all arranged. Yes.
All right, gentlemen, you can take a minute or two to introduce yourselves, or skip that, or however you want to participate. This is the Carlisle Select Board. Please know that we are live on TV and on Zoom as well here in the Select Board meeting,
Excellent.
and we're going to have some fun.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. A brief introduction. My name is Neil Joyce. I'm the proposed project director and a principal at Construction Monitoring Services.
And I'm Scott Luker. I am a senior project manager, also a principal at CMS.
Good evening. My name is Steve Vaccaro, and I am the on-site representative.
All right, great. We're going to get right into the questions.
Roll in.
We're going to try to keep it to 30 minutes, so I'm not going to try to be rude, but I am going to try and move it along.
Okay?
And you have received these questions ahead of time, so you know that the first goal of this project is for funding approval for the design that we would go to town meeting. So we want to go to town meeting with the conceptual design and get money for the actual design and construction documents.
Yep.
The path for that goal was laid out in this question, so knowing that, please describe the process and deliverables you would use to enable Carlisle to achieve this goal, and what do you view as the major risks and challenges needing mitigation to achieve it?
So I think the major hurdle for every project in the public market today is really fundamental in education, educating the public on the costs associated with public construction, as well as the processes that we have to undergo in order to legally put a job out to bid and move forward with construction. So that really focuses on identifying the need at the town level, right? There has to be a recognition by the public that the project has value and is a necessity to the community. And that is something that we have had very great success with doing. Greater than 95% of our projects are passed and go through to construction to completion. So we have a great success record on bringing that information forward and presenting it in a meaningful way to the communities. How do we do that? We've done about every possible thing, from radio spots to project-specific websites, published frequently asked questions with answers, open houses at the facilities, show the department's deficiencies, if you will, and let the public get in and move around in the space and see what the problems are and how to best address them. We've done, as I said, local access TV, we've done radio spots, we've done about everything under the sun to get the message out. And again, the message has been heard in most cases, it's been understood, and it's presented in a way that's easily digestible. We always look at the economic impact of every project, what it costs to do something. We also look at what it costs not to do something. What does it mean to the community long-term? Unfortunately, the last 5 years have been really expensive years to build in construction, but we're not seeing prices dropping. We're seeing the rate of increase decrease. So it's getting more expensive slower, if you will, but it's not slowing down appreciably. At the end of the day, for us, the exercise is truly earning the public's trust, making sure that you understand we're trying to do what's best for the community as it's outlined in the goals and objectives for the project. And we try to do everything with our due diligence. We like to look at all the options that are available to you. We like to make sure that we've turned over all the rocks and scratched all the earth and make sure we know what we're getting into before we put a shovel in the ground. And we try to do it in a manner that maintains integrity and is fully transparent to the public, so they understand where the numbers come from and ultimately what the cost of the project will be at the end of the day.
Any follow-up questions, Scott?
You mentioned educating people about the need and the cost, and I do think this community recognizes the need. I think a big question that we need to resolve before bringing it before the town is, Goldilocks. What are we trying to build here? We don't want to overspec it and make it too expensive. We don't want to underspec it and then find in a few years we have to add something or do something else. So how will you help us not only communicate the need and the cost, but help define what that right target is that we can then present to the public?
So I think all of that really starts from the most fundamental part of the design process, which is the building program. Understanding how you manage your spaces, if you will, employees, apparatus, response, just sort of look at the department operations whole and develop a building-wide program for what's existing, what is to be added if that's the path that we move forward, and how best to optimize that space. And I think that's an exercise that's really somewhat iterative, largely dependent on the feedback that we get from the department and the observations we make in the station during design, and also having the right designer on board to marshal that process through.
Any follow-up questions from the board?
I'll ask. From your standpoint, in that process, working with the department and the different stakeholders, the expertise on your end to vet, to confirm, or identify things we haven't thought of, do you bring that to the table as a designer?
So
we want this to be a two-way discussion.
Right, so we've done north of 70-plus projects across the Commonwealth over 25 years. So we bring all of that experience with us. I like to ask more questions than our client does, because oftentimes it will help to prompt their line of thinking. And when you're going through the programming process, I think one of the common pitfalls that we find is departments sometimes tend to operate based on what they know, as opposed to considering a better way of doing things that might mean a larger degree of change in the short term, but make operational efficiency better in the long term. So we sort of channel all of that experience together and ask a lot of questions, both of you and also of the designer, and draw on their experience as well.
All right, thank you. The next question. So in the RFP, the select board identified and provided 5 goals for this project that are well vetted. Also in the RFP, the select board described a hopeful project budget of between $5 and $10 million with the concept of potentially adding an annex facility. So based on your experience and expertise, do you believe this is achievable to meet the goals and to stay within the budget that is described?
So I do. Optimistically, always, I do. I think that the scheme that was developed and presented to us at the walkthrough, as well as distributed afterwards, appears to address each of the goals that was outlined for the town in preparing the original study. So my hat's off to the chief. I think he really knows what he needs to make the station right. Really quickly, I think the site provides the sufficient space for expansion of the existing facility while maintaining site circulation around the building. I think the expanded footprint will provide an opportunity to optimize and make more efficient use of the existing building and structure at the site. I think that the addition of the separate locker facilities and private shower rooms address the gender equity issues across the station that do not exist. And I think the overall station organization, coupled with the improvements of the additional training spaces, offices, the exercise room, the day room, et cetera, are going to be a tremendous improvement to the morale for the firefighters in the facility and are going to aid in retention and attraction of labor. We've seen a real sort of shift in the marketplace in the last, say, 10 years, that newer stations are drawing more talented people. They want to work in a nice place. They want to have nice facilities available to them. And it's making it easier for towns to retain the firefighters, in this case, that they have currently on staff.
So, so that's great. So you like kind of the programmatic, at least, plan, and I don't know if it's a fully defined plan, but at least those are our goals.
Sure.
But you do think that you could, based on your experience, and you guys have been doing this for a long time, and you see these numbers all the time, that something that meets those programmatic goals could fit into a $5 to $10 million budget?
I think realistically, you're at the high end.
Okay.
You're looking at a $10 million project, I believe. I don't think you're going to get it for $5 million, respectfully.
But, well, no, that's what we're looking for,
Right.
is judgment. But is it, you know, and again, you don't know, you haven't done the plans and everything, but
Right.
you've seen, it's your expertise, you know, is it 15 million when you say, gosh, you know, by
So-
the time we get done, it's really going to be?
I was going to bring this up later on, but we did, fairly recently, 2019, we did an addition renovation on a fire station down in Dudley, Massachusetts. It's a little, I think the town was a little larger than this is, but essentially, the building was an existing fire station. It had been added on to multiple times over the years. So we took the oldest bay off of the building, completely demolished it back to sound structure, and then we put an engineered metal building onto the end of the facility. It was quick, it was efficient, it was clear, and we used that for apparatus bays. And then within the existing station, we reconfigured some spaces on the first floor, did a full renovation of the first floor, new offices, and then added bunk rooms in the back, which I know was not necessarily part of your program, but we did all of that work while the station was occupied. They never missed a call, they were never delayed in a response, and we worked seamlessly with the department to move through that job in less than, I think it was about 11 months was our construction schedule. And at the end of the day, the job only cost $6 million. Now, that was, again, that was 2019. It was a 2018 bid. So we've seen some appreciable escalation across the last 5 to 6 years. But I think if you really look at what you need and how you build it, I think there are opportunities that are out there that we can get you into your budget. And again, a lot of it is very speculative at this point, pie in the sky, some lines on some paper and some general space definitions. But I don't think what you're asking for is extraordinarily expensive space. So we'll,
I think that leads into the next question, which is the town's looking to hire a firm that's willing to design their project, not necessarily a project that a designer is looking to design, if that makes sense to you. So this might include value engineering, creatively designing an index, or considering alternative building construction methods like modular. So how would you help the select board recruit and select a designer that's willing to consider these alternative approaches and their impact on the budget while still meeting the goals of the project?
so I think the first step with any project is a clear expectation set with any designer. The budget is what the budget is. And if your budget is 10 million and that's where you want to be at the end of the day, that needs to be stated explicitly at the beginning of the project, and there should be no relief granted from that restraint. Their trick, much like it is ours, is to figure out how to address all the programmatic needs within that number. And ultimately, that's sort of where the rubber hits the road. And I could sit here and tell you 1,000 different ways that we can get there, none of which may be appealing to you tonight. But at the end of the day, you're paying us to think outside the box and to come up with solutions or potential solutions that will address the needs of your station as well as the needs of the facility. And I'll just say that the last thing that we want to do, to your point earlier, is to build a station that needs to be renovated because we used inexpensive materials or whatever else. So part of that balance is just picking durable materials that are going to stand the test of time and will operate the way that the station needs it to operate as you move forward. And truthfully, I don't have all those answers sitting here tonight, but at least that's a perspective that we bring to each project that we serve.
Any follow-up questions or comments? All right, moving on to question 4. Please discuss your recommended staffing plans for this project. Is the team here tonight? And will the project be assigned to a dedicated person, or who will we be working with?
So this is an easy one. We have been very fortunate, and we're very pleased to have been selected by the town previously to work for the police station renovation as well as the library renovation. And the team you see here before you is proposed to do the fire station as well. I do have additional staff that's coming available the middle of the summer of 25, right? That we will likely be adding to the project, which may be right around the time that we're moving forward with a construction package for the fire station. I think it would work out quite well. I will just say that collectively speaking, Scott and I have worked collaboratively together on probably 10 or 12 projects over the last 15 years. So we know each other very well. We're very familiar with each other's strengths and weaknesses, and I think complement each other well. And up until I joined the company 15 years ago, the staff was, I think, all family. So I think we've done a great job. We have a good bench. I'm very happy with where we are in the marketplace as well, and I think we'd be a good fit for the project.
Follow-up. Can you clarify then, Neil, your role versus Scott's, since you both have the same title?
Sure. Our roles are pretty complementary. We can step in for each other at any point in time under most normal circumstances. I'll try to do most of the legwork during the design work, getting everybody up and on board, getting the design moving forward. And then Scott tends to be a little bit more operational and mechanical than I, and sort of steps in more so during construction and less so during design. And it's all about current assignments and where we should go.
Yeah, I would envision that we both have a kind of a little bit of overlap, not without being like focusing both of us. We don't need to for a project this size, but I mean, as much as needed to make the project successful and satisfy your needs.
Another follow-up. Does your firm have or bring from the outside MEP consultants, code consultants, fire specialists?
We're not designers.
Yep.
So we would not bring code consultants in. They would likely be a sub-consultant to the designer and fall under their design envelope.
Yep.
So to that extent, no. As far as project management skills and services, we provide all of them in-house using our own employees. We do our own cost estimating, our own scheduling, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
We also we work with commissioning agents. Sometimes we bring them in during the design process so that they can, get eyes on the documents and, do kind of a peer review during that process.
Thank you.
Quick follow-up. So, working for the police station renovation, I don't know exactly what the time frame is on that one, but let's say that we have a goal of having the enough of a design in the sense of the cost that we can take it to our town meeting in May, and because we're going to have to then have the town approve funding for the actual design and construction going forward. Have you thought about the overlap? Because I see, Steve, you're on both projects, right?
I am indeed, yes.
And so I'm looking at the breakdown of hours that you all gave in your proposal. And so, Steve, you're down to, for the construction phase, for 40 hours, and 8, I guess, during bidding, and then 24 for the closeout. So tell me how you're thinking about that.
So I'm My thought process in staffing the job is that we'll have myself as project director, Scott assisting me as needed throughout the design period and until the point in time that the job is ready to go to bid. As I understood the schedule that was presented, you're looking for, I'll call it a strong schematic design with a schematic design estimate to go to town meeting in May. What that tells me is that there's probably an additional 120 to 160 days of design time after that to complete documents and get ready to go to bid. So again, that largely will change. It may vary. I don't know how far along we'll be in May. We'll pick that logical cutoff point, and then we'll have a complementary design phase after approval, which would likely extend through the summer and into the fall. And then if we can get out to bid at a reasonable time, December is not a great time to start doing foundation work in New England, but, you know, if we took a similar approach to what we did or are contemplating to do for the police station, which is get it out to bid, you know, sort of early in the winter with like a March 1 start date type thing, that would work great because the police station renovation and the library renovation are both set to complete sometime early next spring. So the timing would.
Yeah, but there's another town meeting cycle in there. We're not going to approve the whole thing in the spring, right? Let's make sure we're clear on that. We're only going to request, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, design funds.
I was going to say, you would know better than I.
Well, we perhaps, because this was a confusion with the prior party as well.
Okay.
Perhaps we did not articulate that well enough in our RFP, because we need to get, to your point earlier, which I totally agree with, you know, you got to communicate, people have to understand the need, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get them to commit design funds.
Okay.
They'll ask naturally, is it a 10 million or a 20 million? Sure. But
Of course.
we need some money to design, and then we're coming back with the real cost.
Okay.
Am I correct in what I'm saying? Yeah.
Would that be under a presumed special town meeting, or would that be an annual town meeting in May of 25?
Yeah.
6, 5?
Honestly, we need an OPM to help us
There you go.
work through some of those timeframes.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, good segue to, there are 3 phases to this project. So you've identified a few of them: pre-design,
Yep.
and then after town meeting, the design phase, and then the actual construction phase. We know that OPM firms have different strengths. All of you have different strengths and focuses. So why is your firm the right firm to take us through all 3, given that the select board wants to work with one OPM for the entire project?
So I will say that 100% of our revenue and our corporate structure is to provide OPM services. We don't do anything else. We're not designers, we're not engineers. We don't claim to be. And we have no other outside interests, no out-of-state offices to support. 100% of your funds come back to you indirectly through our services. I think that we operate with a level of respect and professionalism that really isn't common in the business. I think we're the right size firm to work with a community like Carlisle. And I think that we have a proven track record of completed projects across the Commonwealth. We've never had a project come in over budget, which I think is not something that a lot of firms can put on their resume. And I think that we provide a balance of experience and efficiency and cost-effective project management solutions that complement this project well. But I'm biased.
We also don't do a lot of studies. We see projects through to completion, so it's just, maybe we've been lucky, but I think it's more like just our, dedication to the projects and making sure that, we're doing everything we can to, give the town the best project that we can give them for your funds, for your money, and just try to make the community understand that.
Can you pull the mic closer
sorry.
to you? Yeah.
And just trying to, make the community understand that, all the money that's going to the project is, is being spent wisely.
Any follow-ups? Okay, I think we discussed question 6 indirectly in terms of workload and timeline, so I'll jump to 7. So communication is an important part of this project. The select board would like to know your communication style, and also I'm going to combine another question here, so that there will be a building committee appointed for this. You're going to be dealing with me and the staff and the select boards. How are you going to communicate with all of those entities? What's your style? Give us a description of how you communicate in all the different ways.
So I'll sort of break it down into formal communication, a little bit informal communication. Formally, when we work with designers, we're responsible for recording meeting minutes throughout each design meeting. We'll submit those meeting minutes back to the town with a summary of discussions had, decisions that were made, next meetings, topics to be discussed. We'll really try to provide a roadmap, if you will, of the progression of the design so that you're well informed about where we are at any point along the curve. We try to get those minutes out as timely as possible. We target 48 hours after every meeting so that the information is fresh, and people always have the ability to comment or provide critique back to us if something wasn't recorded properly or we feel like we're misrepresenting a decision that was made. During construction, formal documentation is, we'll do a fully customizable monthly report, schedule update, budget update, narrative of completed work, forecast of upcoming work, for the next 30 to 60-day period. Really try to give you a good snapshot in time of where the project is once construction begins. Our teams, Steve does a great job with creating daily reports which log the firms that worked on the job each day, the number of employees, the tasks performed, the weather conditions, really takes a snapshot, progress photos, the whole 9 yards, and collects those every day. Those can be distributed electronically by email. We don't want to fill your inbox. We're certainly respectful of your time, but we're committed to providing you with as much information as you want relative to the project. And then in terms of informal correspondence, where it's normal and customary that we meet regularly with our committees, whether it's the select board or the building committee, participate in meetings, lead discussions, provide updates, anything of that matter. And then always available, email, voicemail, phone message. Pick up the phone and call me. I live in Reading. I'm 15, 20 minutes away. Well, 30 minutes away, sorry. But certainly local and available to you as needed. Anything else?
You use critical path with the contractors?
Yeah. Yep,
And let us know when there's.
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, when we monitor their schedule, if they're veering off the critical path, we ask them for recovery schedules, and they should be giving us schedule updates monthly, so.
I think just in terms of our experience with building committees, we've been very successful in establishing relationships, positive relationships with the committees that we serve. We're very respectful of your time as volunteers, and we'll try to do as much of the legwork and heavy lifting as we can before coming to the meetings. We'll do the best we can to distribute the information in a timely manner prior to the meetings, so you have an opportunity to review things and look at them. Ultimately, it's about us building a relationship of trust with you, that you're paying us to manage your project for you, and we really want to do the very best job we can for you as we're moving forward. I always ask the people that work with us, I always say to them, please don't bring problems without bringing solutions. And that's really what you're asking us to do, is to create this synergy of information and highlight the path forward to make the job successful and run. and that's really what we focus on.
All right, team, we have 30 seconds if you have any follow-up information.
Sorry.
Oh, we're right on time. It's perfect.
I have a quick one. I'll
Okay.
try to make it quick. Building committee. So we will establish a building committee for this project. And in this town, building committees are volunteers and they take it very seriously. So it'll be an active, engaged group. Who would be the main point of contact with our building committee?
Depending on the point of construction, I would say either myself or Steve during design, and then probably either Scott or Steve during construction
Okay.
is likely the way it will run.
All right, great question, great ending. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
To the board, you have 4 minutes.
Stretch your legs, get your water. I need more water.
Good night, everyone.
Goodbye.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
I gotta get caught up on this project. Like, where did it leave off? Like with,
Well, it's just, well, I left off with.
gotcha.
Said it was 20 million. And so we didn't
Or,
trust selection.
or the designer
Wanted that-
that's giving him the bid, right?
Right, well, so, and.
So that's
we
why you
said-
need these guys to
this
say,
is where we
that's
said-
not what, we're like,
Right,
okay.
we need somebody then to be more clear about what we want
Well, and
in terms
also,
of budget.
and also who to go to and when to call,
Yeah,
hold their feet to the fire.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
fair enough, okay.
So that's why we're going.
But it sounds like we have a lot of work has been done, need to be reviewed and confirmed.
Kind of felt we missed these guys.
Right, right. Because a lot of the, we don't want another study, start over from scratch. We just want to like, take a critical look at it all.
Are you still on camera, just letting everyone
I
know?
know. Okay, I'm just getting caught up on this.
There's nothing wrong, just letting everyone, reminding everyone.
Okay.
Boy, I'm gonna have so many business cards.
No, I'm just trying to get straight in my head.
I was the only one who didn't put my materials away. So I like told everyone.
Say it again?
I told you all to put your materials away. Mine. David's.
Put those away, please.
Yeah, like, so, you know, and I'm also still trying to get up to speed with all the work that's been done to this
We
point.
did all this other
I mean, I knew what was going on, but I haven't,
selection committee and the.
all the work that was done previous, like leading into this, that's there. No, that's fine, but it's not relevant to these questions.
Well, it's relevant to the
Process.
Yeah.
See the difficulties, the challenges we've been facing, and that's why we're
Yeah, yeah.
at this stage.
Ryan's just reminding us we're still live.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, we are live. We are
Live.
public.
Carlisle, it's
Okay, are you ready?
Tuesday night?
Yeah.
Last one. Let's
do it.
4 of them this time. Keep adding someone.
Nice. We're going up the ladder.
All right, so this is
Collier.
Collier's.
Colliers.
Yes.
Totally forgotten everybody. It's great. That way I have no bias from the prior,
Yeah, I didn't.
completely forgotten everybody.
Anybody-
51st
or the
dates,
references
right?
or any of that.
51st dates, every time,
Yeah.
it's a whole new date.
So I can't possibly bias my opinion based on what they submitted. Because I have no recollection. It's like, no, I mean, I'm on to like 88 other, between last time and now, how many decisions have I made in my life? Like,
Perfect in
Yes.
government then. Senator, I have no recollection. And you're telling the truth.
Right. Hello. Hi,
Hi,
hi.
hello.
Welcome.
Sorry, someone gets the short chair.
Right behind us.
Yeah, we got more.
we got more big boy chairs. Let's go.
Yeah.
Big girl chairs.
Big person chairs.
Person chairs. Hello, Derek. How do you do? David Modell.
Hi, Derek and Barney.
Hello, Angela.
Angela, hi, nice to meet you. What's your name?
Meet you.
Caesar. And Barney.
Watch your step. Yep, thank you. Hi, Angela. Hi.
Too.
Tom, Travis.
Hi, nice to meet you.
See you.
So here, well,
Hi, nice to meet you.
the names, yeah. There's
Caesar,
Angela,
he's here.
here's Angela.
Caesar and this.
We got booby traps for all of our.
Just drop my pen.
All right, great. If you want to take a minute to introduce yourselves, I know you just shook hands, but to anyone watching and to the board, and then we'll get right into the questions.
Wonderful. Well, good evening, and thank you so much for having us. My name is Derek Osterman. I am the regional director from Colliers, and I'm so happy to be with you here tonight. Oh, and I was a bad boy. Do we need to do that again?
No.
But in the future, yes, please.
Yes.
I'm Angela Campbell. I'm with Colliers. I'm the senior project manager.
I am Cesar Collado. I'm your construction representative.
And Tao Win, Senior Financial Analyst with Colliers.
All right, great. Thank you for taking the time to come tonight. We know a lot of work goes into this, and it's appreciative, and we don't mean to rush it or to minimize the work. We're just trying to get it all in. So thank you very much. So I'm going to start with the first question from the board. So you received these questions ahead of time, and you know a major goal is to bring a schematic design or some version of the project to town meeting in likely May, so that funding can be paid for the design phase. And then we identified the path to that goal in the questions that we sent you. So can you please describe the process and deliverables you would use to enable Carlisle to achieve this goal? And what do you view as the major challenges and risks needed to mitigate the achievement?
So we looked at your schedule, and we believe it's definitely achievable, getting to the town meeting by May 2025. We would want to get started right away to bring the designer on board, issue the RFQ, and start a design kickoff meeting, within the first 2 months by November. Getting us a cost estimate by March, April 2025 will allow us to look at that cost and make sure we have everything that we need to bring to town meeting. And then, of course, making sure that we do some public outreach, leave time for that in that timeline, and then ultimately getting you to the start of construction in September, October 2025.
So I'm the resident question asker for this one. I think one of the, and maybe it didn't come across in the materials, but one of the critical things for us is the pre-design phase, and our goal is to bring basically a high-level schematic, I guess is the right term, to town meeting so that we can get funding to carry us through the kind of the full design phase and into construction. So at the front end, it's working with the board, the chief, the different stakeholders to really review the work that's been done to this point and do the work required to bring a recommendation to town meeting for a design for funding. So I'm curious how you would use that time over the next few months to do that work in terms of how you would work with us, community outreach, and things of that nature.
It's what we do best. I mean, doing that community outreach piece of it and making sure everybody's informed is what gives you the clarity and the clout to go to town meeting. Along with that community outreach, we're working with the fire department and the fire chief. They're your best advocates. They're the end users. We want to make sure that they're happy. And ultimately, getting you the right designer to do the project is probably the most important piece, bringing them on board in a timely fashion, getting their expertise and getting the team up and running and working with the committee.
And how is that, what's your process in general, for selecting the designer and matching the designer to the project requirements?
So we have a
tried and true process in terms of submitting and getting an RFQ out there. We have templates, we have all the correct wording, is the best way to say it. And we have great expertise working with a lot of design firms, so we can help guide you in that process and what each designer brings to the table and their expertise. And looking at a good match between what the project type is and what their experience and expertise is, that making sure that matches, that gels.
Can I ask? So Angela, I mean, what you just said makes sense, but it doesn't jive with what you opened with, which is we need to get a designer on ASAP. To us, we think that piece, understanding what we need, consulting with us about, from your experience with design firms, who's right, interviewing those guys, that's a couple months. That's not like next month. Like, that's what Scott's trying to say is that's really the critical thing right now, because we have, and I think on reflecting with the interviews we've had, we probably framed the question in the RFP poorly. But this is a 2-town meeting process. The first step is to get the funds to get a designer on board, for which you need some schematic and some ROM of what the end cost is, but not the design. And then the second meeting is the actual design construction budget that would be voted in a subsequent town meeting. I don't think maybe that was clear.
It wasn't clear, but that's okay. I mean, there are several different ways you can do it.
So do you want to amend your answer based on that?
I do. Please. Yes, it is very critical that we get the designer. If that's the route you choose to go, then we need to get them on board. Is it doable? Yes, it's all possible. It's all doable. But it would be
No, but that's all we're trying to do, basically.
Yeah.
Between now and the
Between
upcoming.
now, okay, just bringing them
6
on
months
board.
is to get, like, here's this general concept.
Yep.
We need these funds for a designer. This is the designer we'd like to use. We have the quotes.
Yep.
The whole construction costs and all the design costs is a subsequent town meeting.
So the RFQ for a designer wouldn't go out until after the May town meeting approves funds
I
for
see
that
what you're saying, yep.
person, that firm.
You'd have to know ballpark what you're asking for.
Right, but I mean-
You'd RFQ it, you just would.
So what we needed was, it was an OPM to help us figure this out, whether or not we're going to bring in a designer before or after.
Yeah, so let me jump in here real quick, just because based on where the conversation's going, I would say what I believe you're trying to do is not that uncommon, in that essentially you want a schematic concept as associated with a budget. We will probably ultimately tell you that it will be helpful to have a design team on board, even if it's just for the schematic piece, as well as cost estimating. And that's pretty typical, because it's sort of a minimal amount of investment to get to town meeting number 1, right, as you had stated, to then be able to, with approval, really take it forward to full design, actually execute the project. So I wouldn't say that's a foreign concept. We perhaps didn't fully understand that that's the route you were taking, but very, very familiar with that process and happy to help you execute against that plan. Good. But ask more questions if there are any related to that too.
All right.
Yeah, I'll follow that up, because we've been having this conversation multiple. You're not the only one.
Yeah.
Just to restate it and give you a chance to respond, I think, one of the things, as we've said before, is I think the community recognizes the need for a new fire station. I think that's been something that's been discussed and is apparent. And I think we all have some expectation of what the cost may be for that. And I think where we need to really hone in on leading into town meeting and getting the support of the town is really making sure we arrive at and I'll use the phrase again, the Goldilocks of what we need in a fire station and how to approach its renovation and expansion, so that what we're asking for is reasonable. It's not far overspec and doesn't contain a lot of things we don't need, but it also doesn't omit things that we do need. And so working with the OPM and perhaps a designer in some capacity to get us to that point. And work has been done to this point on studies and things, so there's a lot to draw on, but really coalescing all that work and bringing it into a cohesive, credible proposal to the town is what we're looking for. And again, based on my own experience, the town recognizes the need and is supportive of these things as long as it's well vetted and well considered.
Right. Yeah, I think that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, and we have, of course, all the expertise from all the past projects that we've done. We're looking at cost trends, we're looking at square footage, we'd start to look at options with you in terms of different cost scenarios so that we could fine tune that into one solution that you can bring to the constituents.
All right, so moving on to the second question. In the RFP, the select board provided 5 goals for this project, well-vetted goals. Also in the RFP, the select board described a project budget between $5 and $10 million with the concept of potentially adding an annex facility rather than a straight renovation or a new building. So based on your experience and expertise, do you believe this is achievable to meet the goals and stay within that budget amount?
Sure, we do. So that's the easy part. But much like a teacher would, I'd like to show you my work and explain how we got there and why we got there. So these are some of the favorite conversations I always have with communities that we work with. And budget development is such a hugely important piece of the project in terms of making sure you get what you wanted, and also managing expectations and bringing something forth to town meeting that actually could survive town meeting. So when we look at a budget and we look at a $5 to $10 million budget, the first thing I'm going to ask us all to contemplate is wherever we land in there, I'd like 70% of that budget to go to hard costs, your physical construction. I'd like 10% to take care of contingency. Most of that will probably end up going to hard costs and construction. But for now, we're going to separate it so that you have cushion and contingency as the project progresses over its life. And the remaining 20% is all of your soft costs. In this case, that's your professional fees and expenses, it's furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It's anything that is either a service or good that's such if you turned the project over and shook it, those are all the things that would then fall out of the completed building, right? So that's how your budget comes together. So then we looked at, can you achieve the goals you stated within a $5 to $10 million budget? And so then we started to do some analysis, and I looked at what other folks had been saying. I looked at our own data internally. I was particularly interested in a study that I think way out in Western Mass, Williamstown just posted, where they were looking at 2024 numbers based on a state average that today, if you were to put a shovel in the ground today, was around $700 a square foot. But knowing that our project together will be in the future, we escalated that out and then start to put some contingency and cushion on it to give you what we thought might be reasonable. So understanding kind of my basic math of 70% hard and 30% everything else, and understanding where the market is, we can guesstimate that physical construction, the hard cost construction for your project, is likely to land between $850 and $1,000 a square foot, bringing a total project cost to between $1,200 and $1,400 a square foot. And so then we simply take your 10 million or 5 million, divide it by the full project cost of, in this case, I used the lower one, the $1,200 a square foot, and got to data that suggested you could afford at the $10 million mark about 8,300 square feet, and about half of that at the $5 million mark. So then if we start to look at the program that you expressed as priorities, it does seem achievable. And so the question then is, how do we get there? And I think that relates back to the first question of making sure that we're involving the community, picking the right design team, and working with you to make sure your vision is actually executed properly so that you get an appropriately sized and functioning project as opposed to a little too much or not quite enough. So that was a little fast on the math.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to take anyone back through it.
So some things that have been discussed, moving on to the next question, to help to meet that budget goal have been some discussions in the community about value engineering, creatively designing an annex, or using alternate building construction methods like modular. So how would you help the select board recruit and select a designer willing to consider the alternative approaches? So the board is looking to hire a designer that wants to build their project, not to be led by a designer to build the designer's project, given all those constraints. So why would you be the right firm, or how would you help the firm, the select board, to do that?
Well, that's why you hire us, to understand all the costs and the ramifications. And certainly any designer that we would bring on board would be that type of firm that would work with the committee. That's what we're looking for. Somebody that has experience looking at alternative construction avenues. We, as Colliers, would be exploring any and all opportunities to help save money, stay under budget, and any and all opportunities will be looked at. Finding the right designer, that's part of our job as well, is to guide you to make sure that it's the right fit, that they have the experience and the knowledge to understand that coming in on budget is a priority, and looking at those opportunities are part of that process.
Okay, not seeing any follow-ups. So the next question, please discuss your recommended staffing plans for this Carlisle project. Is the team here tonight? Will there be anyone else who will be dedicated solely to this project?
Yeah, thank you for that. So the team is absolutely before you this evening, so I'll explain a little bit about each of our roles, and then I'll mention two people who aren't in the room but are important additions that are available as needed. So really, myself, again, I am sort of your view into Colliers and make sure that you have a good experience from a municipal perspective, from a client perspective, and the team is always getting you what you want. If that were ever to not be the case, certainly you'd come to me with that feedback and we'd adjust it immediately. But in terms of day-to-day, Angela will be your project manager. What I love about Angela in particular is her specialty is public safety, primarily fire with some police, has decades of this work, was recruited to Colliers specifically for her expertise around planning, design, and management on fire station projects. So can't think of a better match. She then is supported by Cesar Collado, who is a recent recruit and is really doing wonders for us in the field. So as the project will eventually transition from design phase to construction, Cesar will be your eyes and ears as the project is actually being built. And then certainly as importantly, especially given the objectives of this project and the financial constraints, Tao is our internal financial analyst, cost controls, and general support in terms of funding, finance, and managing all of that, as well as providing analysis and kind of managing your risk profile. So while you won't see her every day, you might see her monthly, she's an incredibly important part of the team to make sure that finances are well tracked, managed, and that we're avoiding risk everywhere we can throughout the life of the project. Then beyond those folks, you would have seen in our qualifications a gentleman by the name of Tony DeLuzio. So in support of Angela, Tony similarly has built his career around public safety projects, and I never like to send one expert into a community alone. I always like to have two, so there's a backup option. So Tony would be the backup, and then to the extent that we need it, we're delighted to have one of the leading minds in terms of MEP systems and engineering on our team. We have internal commissioning, and so Sarah Maston will be helping us from an engineering perspective in terms of the technical review of designers' documents and making sure that systems are appropriate. I think one of the things we've heard more than anything else from clients is when a building is done and turned over, sometimes then turning the operations to the local municipality isn't always so smooth. So it's our commitment to make sure that doesn't happen to you, and that's really what Sarah's about.
Do you have an estimator on staff?
We don't. So we generally use third-party estimating. The reason we do is because it's their full-time job to collect market data, and while we are the largest OPM in the region, we want more. We have our own market data. We want someone else's, and so we'd recommend that we go outside.
All right, any follow-ups?
Yeah, just quick. I was looking at what you provided in your proposal about on-site And so I see that, Cesar, for the construction period, it's listed 1 to 2 days per week during construction.
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's some concern among some of the town hall experts in this kind of thing about having a kind of a clerk of the works that's there on site during at least the kind of the critical times of construction. So how do you, what's your thinking about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that question. So when we put that together and our thinking around that, generally speaking, is we absolutely agree that there will be critical moments over the life of the project where you need someone on site that day, and Cesar and/or a member of the team absolutely will be there. Knowing that you are likely cost sensitive, though, I don't know that it makes sense to have one or several full-time personnel on this project, given the size of the project. If we were talking about a school that was hundreds of millions of dollars, you wouldn't notice the cost of having a full-time employee, so to speak, monitoring it for you. I can tell you that you absolutely will notice the cost, no matter who your OPM is, if you want a full-time person on site from your OPM team. And so really the thinking there is we want to be smart with your money, only provide resources when you absolutely need them. And we're happy to continue that conversation with you, but we don't want to force staff on you when they may or may not be required, because then that comes with costs that you have to spend on labor as opposed to putting into your building.
And when you say your team, that's the 5 people listed in your proposal, that team stays constant.
We do.
And then when you said you might assign a different member of the team rather than Cesar, if we
Meaning
needed
one
it.
of the 5.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
of the 5.
right.
Okay, great.
6.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 6.
Oh, sorry.
My bad.
Yes.
Right. 6.
Yeah, if you exclude me, it's 5.
The question may be too large for the time we have, but for Angela, I know in the materials that had been sent in the proposal, you have a lot of experience specifically, you indicate with public safety, with fire stations, energy efficiency, all the things I think that we're looking for. Can you just speak to maybe a couple of the key challenges in doing fire stations that maybe a more generalist may not have that you bring to the table?
So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Angela, I'm going to rephrase that one a little bit for you, just to make sure we hit all the questions.
Okay.
And it relates, Scott, I promise. So
Gotcha.
there's 3 phases to this project. There's the pre-design that we talked about, the design itself, the construction documents, and then the construction. So given that OPM firms have different strengths and the select board wants to work with one firm for the entirety of the project, why are you the right firm? Why do you have the right skills to help the select board with this project? Fire station specific.
Well, all 3 of those phases are very important. You know, one is not more important than the other, but certainly pre-construction, we have a lot of expertise, a lot of folks backing us up at Collier's that help us with the pre-construction part of it. That's the meat and potatoes. That's where all of the goals are set, and it's really important to establish that early on. The design portion, we have great expertise in terms of doing some quality control. Certainly, we go into all the drawings, all the documents that designers provide, and go through all of them, look for any gaps, look for any missing information. We do an extensive quality controlled review of all the design documents. And then the final phase in terms of construction, as we mentioned, Cesar comes in with great expertise in terms of managing the construction project on a weekly basis and making sure that everything is as it should be. I'll let him speak to that.
Yeah, in that part, I will supporting you, as needed for the project. Basically, my main function here will be to be your eyes and your ears in the project. And basically in the construction phase, I will be monitoring the cost, the quality, and that everything is on a schedule and as you expect it to be. I will provide later when we finish the meeting, but we have a standard weekly, advance of the project, how it's going. And also during the closeout project, we have like all the documentation in our server, and we can organize that as you wanted to. And you have all the punch lists, all the documentation that you need, so you can operate like as you need the building. So basically, that's what I can tell you so far, that we can provide you in the construction phase and the closeout phase too.
Yeah, the one nudge I would give you, Angela, just to make sure we brag appropriately, and maybe it's not your style, but I'm going to do it on your behalf, is knowing that you've spent so much of your career in fire stations, in particular, having conversations with Angela and Tony where I make assumptions that are totally wrong because I haven't done 20 years of fire stations as the team has, but Angela really knows operationally how they work, so maybe provide a little bit of thinking around that.
Yeah, I was going to follow up. I mean,
Yeah.
fire stations are a very unique project type, and certainly every fire station has similarities, but there's also differences depending on the town or the city that we're working with. So I think part of it is working with the fire department, understanding their needs, their wants. The other side of this project type is the infrastructure and the technical knowledge to build everything that you need to have in a fire station that's going to last you for the next 50 years. And having that foresight and future-proofing the building in terms of the infrastructure. There's also the added layer of building in all the energy compliance that we need to have for this new state-of-the-art building and understanding the cost implications. So I would say in terms of a project type, the fire stations that I've worked on, there's generally similarities, but when you get into the details and the operations, you also have to fit it towards the needs of the fire department. And that's what makes it so unique.
All right, we have time for one more question.
Have you worked on-call fire rather than, as opposed to totally?
Yes.
professional? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Different. It's a different need. It's a different operation, and certainly it still has the similarity as to a permanent 24/7 facility, but there are some differences with on-call firefighter needs.
All right, so our last question is going to be about communication. The select board is likely going to appoint a building committee, which will be all volunteers, local volunteers who really care about the town in this project. You're going to be working with staff that obviously has many things to do, and then the select board has limited time. So they're really depending on the OPM to communicate well. So can you talk about your communication style, how you plan to communicate, maybe give an example, and then we'll have time for one follow-up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our style, our communication style is that we are involved heavily every day. Sometimes it's every day, sometimes it's weekly. It's phone calls, it's emails, it's reports. And at a high level, we provide an executive summary every month that highlights the progress of the project and where we are financially to give to the select board. And certainly we prepare lots of different reports depending on what the town's needs are. But we respond in terms of communication, whatever you need, and at the phase of the project that requires that level of communication and interaction. And
Also, I know that in the construction phase is like a really risky situation when the fire station is operating. At the same time, they have users. And we will make sure like we have a really smooth and a streamlined process where every stakeholder is informed of what is happening without like they have any struggle during the process of the construction or interrupting the process of the regular operation of the fire station.
Any follow-ups from the board?
I have a quick one just on the building committee. So we will definitely have a building committee, and it'll be made up of volunteers. And typically, because we've had other building committees, it's a group of people that are very committed and really engaged and are going to want to be, very involved once everything's set to go with the just how everything progresses. So, how would you see yourselves interacting with a building committee? And honestly, that would be the group you'd interact with more, frankly, than you would the select board. Once it's a go, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay if I offer a couple
Yeah,
thoughts?
go ahead.
Yeah, so I would say that basically on essentially every municipal project we work on, it more often than not is the building committee that the team has the pleasure of working with. And what I think we do really well is we empower all of the building committee members to have all the information they need to make all of the decisions that need to be made, because it's really not our place to make decisions on Carlisle's behalf. It's the building committee, and you are all positioned to make those decisions. But we give you all of the objective data to make those decisions and empower people and really get them excited about their participation on the committee, because everyone joins for very different reasons typically. And we want to make sure that people feel really passionate about the project and quite fulfilled, not only at the end of the project when we're cutting the ribbon, but all the way through. So I think it becomes a really nice collegial working relationship between the Colliers team and the building committee as we kind of charge forward with your shared vision of what this project will be. So really typical, and we're all kind of people. We stay here all night if you let us, and so we're ready.
Well, we'd love to have you all night, but we can't.
We'll be here all night.
Here all night anyway.
Yeah. So as I said in the beginning, we really respect the time that goes into this. We know this was abbreviated. We have spent a ton of time with your materials, and the interview's been very helpful. So thank you for coming on behalf of the town and the project, and we appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You all. Cesar, are you going to give us some of your handouts? Yeah.
I got some handouts too.
Okay.
I didn't get too much talk time today, but I'll leave you with some presents.
Thank you.
Great.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reconciliation.
Okay, thank you.
2 pages.
Yeah, of course we, no, of
We're
course.
willing to do that upon occasion.
Estimate reconciliation, if you want to talk numbers.
All right, very
Is this
good.
for a particular type of
So
project?
it was another project I've done recently. It's one of the most recent numbers we
Okay.
acquired this year over the summer.
Yep. There we go.
And they're in 50% construction documents.
What type of building was it? Just like a town building of some kind?
It's a fire station.
Oh, it's a fire station, sorry.
Yep.
It's probably on there.
No, I wasn't confusing at all. I got it. Yeah.
Or there's public numbers, but
good,
no, it's my
thanks.
fault.
Oh, okay.
It was the way it came
Oh,
out.
yeah, yeah.
But,
So this is a fire
it's a fire
station?
station,
And you said it's at 50% completion?
at 50% completion.
Number what?
How large?
They have,
Thank
they're
you.
looking at a new building, so not the
Yeah,
same,
yeah, I
but,
gotcha.
just the way we run the numbers.
Yep.
I help
This was-
facilitate these,
Thank you.
meetings and do cost comparisons and scope and all the costs, so just a little preview of what you might see from us. So
Great.
Okay, thank you. Thanks
Thank
very
you for
much.
your time.
Appreciate it.
Packet. Oh, okay.
Did I talk too much again?
No. Talk with the numbers.
No stuff. All right.
Okay, great.
Great,
Is
thank
this
you.
different from what was in the proposal?
It is, yeah.
Okay,
Slightly different.
Are we allowed-
That's just
are we allowed to
an example
take
of
it?
Executive summary
okay.
that we provide monthly.
That was a big one.
It'll change a little, but.
Yeah.
And, yeah, executive summary. That's what we usually provide to owners on a monthly basis. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks,
Thank you.
Angela.
Bye-bye, have a good night.
All right, thank you.
All right, so just to remind the board from the last meeting, you went through each one of the proposals to create the short list, so we're now limited to the short list parts of the proposals.
Yep.
You can adjust your ratings for the RFP responses based off the interview. So
Yep.
the numbers that you've already created, you have the references, and then you have the interview scoring to do for each firm.
So
I would remind that this is a recorded meeting, and these are professionals that took some time, so use numbers rather than words. If you're going to be overly critical, it's just a suggestion.
But clarification again, Ryan. So I thought where we landed was play-in round was done, and we picked 3 of 6. And then we clear all the yellow cards, and now we're a fresh, they all start even at this, for tonight. Is that true or not true?
You would have to adjust the scores as they already exist and justify it.
So that's opposite of what my understanding was from the last time we met. I thought we clear the old one. That was to get into this round, and now we evaluate them based on what we heard today.
So we can't quite clear the field. You have to take the entire proposal together.
Okay. I don't remember. Then you have to remind us where we landed.
Do we have this?
I anticipated that.
Keith's got a question.
Were you able to get references for RBG?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I got one additional reference for Collier's.
And?
Those were sent out. I can.
It was for the Williamstown Fire Station.
Sent out to home.
And to
To the group.
paraphrase it, they thought they had the required expertise. The project contact I talked to felt like their specific, some of the aspects of the projects weren't tailored to their specific needs. And not a comment on the individuals, but they felt like they were a bit more focused on the corporate bottom line.
Yep.
And corporate processes versus their individual needs. One thing the contact was particularly not happy with was the fact that they just, whatever the cost was, they just took the time and divided by
Right,
years. It wasn't cost, like the hours weren't billed in any kind of actuals. It was just a.
Which hours?
Well, they agreed to a budget for the OPM.
Yeah.
And then rather than billing by hours each
the
month, they
OPM
just took
budget.
it by, if it was a 12-month, they just divided by 12 and billed the same. So he particularly didn't like that aspect of it, without seeing like the actual time that went into it. So I would say, overall, I would characterize it as and they didn't continue with them past the initial phase. They went with a different OPM for the construction.
Okay.
So on this process, we had evaluated these 3 firms. We had ranked them ahead of time with our scoring. And the score, and I think this is all public, right, if I was to say what the scores were, or the lowest rated one was RGB, who was the first to present tonight. And so I would just, in a way to expedite this, was there anyone who felt as though the RGB, the first presenters tonight, moved up significantly, or would we still consider them at the?
I think it's an excellent way to look at it, and
Yeah.
my answer is no.
Okay.
I agree, no.
So no, and I feel no as well. Scott, any? Or maybe, I mean.
They may have moved up a little bit, but not into first place.
Okay, all right,
That's more
fair
someone
enough.
else moving up.
Barney? This is the first one, RG.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking back on. It's too bad we don't have some references,
What,
right? Because we never got any, right?
Well, that's
Yeah,
telling by itself.
but,
did we solicit references, though? I
I
mean,
did, but I never got any back.
and did we follow up and try to get references?
Nope, that one's on me. Did not
And-
get to that.
I have a general question before we get too far into the different groups, because it didn't seem like everyone got the assignment, so to speak, and I'm not sure if that was a function of.
It had to be
how-
us if all 3 got it wrong.
Well, to differing extents, though, I think.
Yeah, I think definitely to different.
I just wanted to get your perspective on the materials, between the materials we provided them, the overview. I was surprised that at least they weren't prepared in some cases to address our specific timeline. Do you feel like it was adequately explained in the materials?
So I looked back at the materials to make sure, in the scope of work that we sent, the pre-design, so the OPM shall provide advice and consultation to the select board to assure the town of Carlisle receives the highest design services.
Right.
It says, the OPM will provide advice and consultation to the awarding authority and designer on a preliminary design review and space needs evaluation, including coordination and participation of all stakeholders, other interested parties, and the general public, shall assist in the establishment of ensuing design criteria and development of the project scope. And then when we and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we held the pre-meeting with all of the designers, I was hammering home the idea that
When
the
you,
select.
with
so
the
we-
OPMs or the designers? you
We
said?
invited all the OPMs, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Sometimes called designers.
These, the people we met with,
The firms.
I can't say that, I can't say that each one was there exactly. I can
you,
go back and look.
process-wise, you met, and they had the opportunity to meet with you and the chief to specifically
The
ask,
fire station.
to do questions about the fire station.
We described the process of the select board needing significant assistance in the selection of a designer.
Okay.
And the program and scope of work necessary to design it.
Okay.
I think where they appear to have missed, and it's a question whether other towns do it differently, is the two-town meeting model, okay? I mean, I'm used to Carlisle, and I'd say to some degree, you know, I don't know if I, in this case, I don't know if I did it, but I certainly generally push only asking for an amount that will get you to a good answer, not asking for an amount where you don't yet even know what the good answer is, right? And many projects, not just this one. And at least, again, my experience in Carlisle is that's the way you sell it. You say,
Yeah.
we need a little money, we're going to do, this is kind of what we want to do, it's kind of going to cost this, but we need some money to really nail it down. We'll come back to you with a much better quote. That's how we've done it. I don't know that we, and maybe we're an outlier in that process, but that's clearly not what they think.
Well, and I think that part of their, we're looking for someone that can tease
Are we
out.
still talking about RGB?
No, anybody.
Generally, okay.
I would not say that blanket, because I
You
think
would not say wet blanket.
that none of them got it. None of them got it. I felt that CMS did get it.
Finally, when we guided them, they got it. I will say, when we guided them, they got it, because they work in the town. I'm not sure, even when we guided it, the other guys are like, woo, what's this about? Like, even when they were told, they answered the way they wanted to answer, which definitely, in the case of the last one, and it comports with your reference, they got the Collier way. Like, here, we do it this way.
And they, again, just for the record, we got 4 references, 3 of them were very positive. And
It may not be a bad way, but it's the
Yeah.
Collier way.
So maybe we'll go about this differently then. You know, it seemed like there may be a strong preference for a first place person or firm on this, or not?
What does that mean?
I mean, based
see,
on the 3 that we reviewed tonight.
Yeah,
If there's a consensus that there was one that was outstanding,
Yeah.
or that we would
Right.
select, you know, maybe we start there and then work our way down.
Well, I think, no, I like the way you started. You eliminated the third place.
Well, I didn't, because as Scott brought up, maybe there's something, or Kate or Scott, that maybe there's some information that's come to light that
Okay.
changes how we think about that. So,
Really?
Well, the other thing, they,
no,
Can you envision a scenario where that is a truth?
before I really ding somebody, I just wanted to know, it sounds to me like they had enough information, enough opportunity
Right.
to get the assignment. And
I'm
so-
saying, you have to think like the way Ryan proposed it when we didn't have references. Assume they got glowing references. Would it meaningfully change the position of that third place firm to move it up to contention? Just assume it's great references. We loved them. They did a great job.
So I think I can help. Maybe.
I might move them up to second, I might not move them up to first.
Yeah, they definitely don't move up to first.
No, I mean, for me, let me be frank. So, for me,
Can I try to just give so qualification criteria for interviews. So a highly advantageous firm demonstrates excellent presentation and communication skills by the actual project staff with a clear understanding of the project's needs. Advantageous is satisfactorily presents, and not advantageous is a poor presentation. So based off your initial scores, assuming you don't want to adjust them based off information you heard tonight, the ranking was CMS, and then Collier's, and then RGB.
This is inbound.
Inbound.
Yep.
So if you were to rank tonight just the evaluation criteria of the interview, there would have to be a significant movement to change that order, and the same with references.
it also isn't rank somewhat important to the process?
in case one can't do it. that we have to fall to the next?
It is, yep, rank is important.
Is there any weighting in these? How do you weight the in-person interview with the paper RF?
Well, David, I did see in our scores that we did last week, that we had a significantly, the first CMS
Right.
scored significantly higher
Yep.
on our
Okay, yep.
pre-interview.
Right.
So if you talk about weighting, if there was something that was,
Yeah, right.
I would give them a lot more weight initially going in.
That's right. No, I agree. I agree with that.
The benefit of the interview and the references is that you can blank someone. So if you do not want to work with someone, or you get a reference that you can say, then they just don't even meet the criteria.
Right.
But it is difficult to go the other way and say, this interview was
So good.
fantastic
Right.
that they're going to go leaps and bounds above.
That's
You
not
can move
an
up.
issue with any of them.
I'm just explaining the process. so you're framed.
Given that, I would, there's one that I feel is clearly the strongest candidate for us to consider, is my opinion.
Right.
But I would potentially ding the other two and say, I'd be willing to throw them out, and maybe not throw them out, but
Yeah.
I want to hear what the board.
Well, I'll give you, all right, so I agree with your assessment. I think the one is clear, and by the way, I guess two other independent processes, not us, have picked the same one, right?
Different firms,
In
too.
Carlisle. No, but among firms, two other Carlisle boards, not that maybe shouldn't matter, but they picked the same one. Okay. So there's reasons we can discuss why I think they do come out attractively. I want to make a statement. It's kind of maybe damning with faint praise, but Colliers is easy to dislike. They come across as smug. We know it. It's our process. Hey, no. I'm going to say it, and they can hear it. They can hear it. We know better. You don't know. That's kind of the impression. However, they have a deep bench of a lot of expertise in areas that we don't know nothing about. And I don't think it's enough to move the order, but I want to acknowledge that they didn't get there just by being big. They seem to really, when the guy answered the costs, like he knew what he was talking about, like boom. And you're going to get, and the lady, she came in at the end, Tao, but like solid analysis. You're going to get like deep skills that a big company provides. I'm not here to advocate for them. I'm just saying they come across as smug and not as nice and user-friendly as the other guy. But they got a lot of stuff in there. I want to just say that.
Okay. I think my, how are we doing this?
Well, why don't you go ahead? I mean,
So-
just give your input.
Yeah, I think it's interesting comparing the interviews with the materials. I think based on the materials, I thought Colliers was a stronger candidate. Based on
interview.
No, based on the materials.
Prior.
I think based on the interviews, I had some concerns about what we talked about. You have a giant firm.
Yeah.
What team are you getting? Are you getting the processes? Are they really tailored?
Right.
And the one reference, one of the two Colliers, and we had three positive references, one being a fire station. The last one I talked to is a project they cited tonight in their favor. And he also said his advice to us was, or not to us, but in general, one of the things he said was that, for a project like yours or our scope, because we talked a little bit at very high level what we're doing, you may want to think twice about going with one of these big guys because you probably want more of a tailored experience that a smaller firm
Yep.
can give you. And I think with Colliers, that's kind of where emotionally I net out is,
Yeah.
They're
going to tell you you're not going
and
to.
I don't feel like I was kind of surprised how off they were with what we were trying to do of, we need to get you to design done by town meeting, which
Yeah.
concerns me. I mean, with all those resources, you kind of missed the assignment.
Right. Not a fair statement.
So,
I don't think we wrote our RFP that
So-
poorly, that people didn't get that.
Oh, for
So
three.
it's-
I don't know. Data suggests we did.
so one thing I think and again, I think CMS has the best overall package, but even RGB, I will at least say, I like their materials the least.
Right.
But I appreciate the fact that they are a smaller operation. They have done fire stations. did bring a relevant handout that at least, so I appreciated their approach. I appreciated what they brought to the table. But in terms of the best combination of materials and presentation, I thought CMS was the best. And so I would rank the interviews kind of CMS as advantageous. RGB is probably whatever the next one is.
It was highly advantageous, advantageous.
3-2.
You put Colliers at the bottom on that one.
Yes, in the interview, yes.
For the interview. I'd agree with that.
Okay. I agree that I would put CMS at the top. I would flip the order of the other two, just personally.
So you agree?
No, I don't.
No, he said he would
So you
switch
flip
the
the
2
order.
and
Oh.
3.
Oh, the thing,
I flipped 2 and 3 is all. I
Yeah,
agree
you
with
like,
one.
you
I
like,
think
you,
we all,
yeah,
well,
I
agree.
agree. Yeah, I
want to speak
understand
for
where Dave's
agree.
coming from on that.
CMS presented the best.
Okay.
They're small, et cetera, et cetera. They only do OPM, all that jazz.
All right. So I think we can universally agree that they would be our number one choice.
Yeah.
CMS.
Yep.
Okay? And so do we need a second and third in the event that CMS?
Well, given this conversation and the lack of references for RGB, I would say if you need a second and third, you should
Get the recs.
get the references and have another meeting about it to be.
That's fair. That's fair.
Do we need it, though? Because.
Only if you need it.
Do we wait and see, you negotiate with them if we were to give you the go-ahead, which presumably we'll do tonight, if we're in agreement, you will negotiate with them, get a contract, and we'll sign it. If you are able to reach agreement with them, that's the only reason that we would need a second and third.
Correct.
And do you think we would, we've worked with them in 2 projects in Carlisle, I think it would, history would indicate
Well, we've
that.
only they haven't done any work yet.
No, but what he's saying is they've reached
To get to an
successful
agreement. If we
agreement on with
successfully
two
reached
others.
an
right.
agreement.
Yeah.
Do we need to spend the time at this point, or is it a reasonable risk to just say, we're just going to stick with the one, and if something falls through that's unexpected, then we're going to lose some time in this, but we maybe don't lose that much time for the effort that we would put in getting references and coming out and have another meeting to change our viewpoint.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Is everyone kind of, is that?
How do we ensure that we're getting the right? I'm concerned now after this interview that that they understand what they're asking them to do, and that
Once we get under.
I'm assuming you can take that offline and back and forth in the
I
discussion.
wrote down, because when we said it, it said, yes, we understand that you want a strong schematic design with a strong estimate for me.
Right.
Seems to me they ought to.
You said schematic is not the
If
right
I could,
word.
if I could be candid to the board, I would say going through this process has helped you clarify your thinking in terms of what you want for this project. So, although I agree that mostly the Carlisle has done the 2 town meeting approach, I think that has come out of you going through this process and wasn't identified prior to the RFS development. So you're communicating, you wanted an OPM because you wanted help understanding what you need to do with this process and where to go. They did the best they could to respond to what we put out, which was, we need help with this, and here's what we think might happen. Now we can work with a firm that you feel comfortable with to really hone in on the project and define it that way, as long as you feel comfortable with who was selected.
Well,
But
do you
I've
feel
I've worked with you now on this project for 1.5 years, and you are continually moving towards where you want to go in a good way, but it hasn't always been clear, so I'm not surprised that some people don't know.
Well, and
exactly.
still, the end product is not clear. The wanting help is clear.
Right.
So.
That's why we're hiring the
right,
OPM to help
right.
clarify.
So I would say, I agree with what Ryan's saying. The main thing is, are you comfortable? Look, I think all 3 have the creds to do a good job, right? So who are we comfortable with? Who will be responsive to our idiosyncratic needs, right? Small town, on-call department, blah, blah, blah. So I think we've reached a consensus on that. So in answer to, or not answer, but in response to Scott's concern, I think if we're comfortable and there's a reasonable negotiation about what it costs, I'm confident that we can then reconvene with them and say, all right, now let's really talk about how we get to a good assessment of, merging our needs and what you practically know about the industry, like what the Colliers guys say, like it's $1,200 a square feet. So yes, it may look a little different, but it's still going to be $1,200. That kind of conversation will be an open conversation, a candid conversation once
And do you expect us, as a select board, to do that?
I don't know
Go to
that.
the
That might
building
be
committee?
that might be the building committee. All I'm saying is
Or are we still,
the process of,
No, I'm going to be firm with that. It has to be you.
yeah, I
Okay,
think so,
okay.
because it's programmatic goals
Right,
and
okay,
fitting
fair
into
enough,
the
fair
budget.
enough, yeah.
And making
right,
sure
we're
that's
not,
right.
right, we're not laying it out. We're just saying how,
Just
right,
note what we.
right.
They're going to monitor, right, that.
Yeah, okay. So I think, does that address your concern, kind of? Would you be confident if we picked CMS to have that conversation with them and get to the answer you? Okay.
Great. Do we need a
Now,
vote, Ryan, or is this?
Quick, wait,
Oh, go
I got
ahead.
one quick
Yeah.
question on this. So, I know that the proposal, the cost of using CMS for the police station has gone up from what they originally, I don't know if substantial is the right word, but we're taking money out of the contingency in order to cover their fee, which we had underestimated fairly significantly, right? Am I saying that right?
Not quite, no.
Well,
So that has nothing to do with CMS.
I thought in the document I saw in front of the building committee on Friday, how much they thought they needed to get paid had gone up substantially from, I think it was 90,000 we had in there for the OPM.
So that's the building committee, not CMS, though. CMS is only responding to the scope that we gave them for cost. The building committee estimated the 90,000.
Okay, all right.
Were they contracted at 90? Or, no, it hasn't been contracted
Hasn't
yet.
been contracted.
Okay.
So this is part of the process, like, this is what it costs to do.
But your sense was that what CMS proposed was reasonable in the context of the market and the scope, and that the 90,000 was just an underestimate.
Yeah, and
the
under
committee.
the umbrella that we're just doing understanding and not talking money, before we talk qualification.
Right.
That's important for procurement. You heard tonight what a few of them said, or a couple of them said, which was, we can do whatever it is you want us to do, but there's cost involved with that. So if you want a 40 to 60 hour a week
Right.
service to monitor every second of the project, which everybody would, given like unlimited resources, then that's what's going to cost. I'm suspecting, based off conversations we've had so far, that each firm is going to say, we think that's overkill for the size of your projects, but you have to decide that risk level.
But wouldn't also CMS, they more or less said it, right? We're here in town anyway on 2 other projects, so being here's not the issue, right?
So once a person or firm is selected for their qualifications, then you can have, according to council, then you can have conversations about divvying up work and stuff like that. As long
Okay.
as you select just on qualifications, we can talk budget. But I just want to answer the question. They're going to propose whatever it is that you request for a service. So if
Yeah.
you say, we want you here every day in the office
Right.
working with the town, it's going to
Yep.
be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yep, I got
If you say
it.
once a week, it'll be cheaper, still expensive, but cheaper.
Yeah, well, I guess the question is whether we ask them to give us the cost of this, that they gave, or whether they would revise this first, this was in the proposal, how many hours from
So
each person.
we can't talk about that until you decide which firm is the most qualified to do your project.
Right, so I'm just saying, if we chose them, we could ask them
And
to review this.
we're
You can
defining the
amend
project
your-
as
you can
soup to
amend-
nuts, right?
Move on with it.
Like, this is
Yeah.
soup to nuts. We're looking for one person from start to finish, although our initial effort is this pre-design.
What are we asking them to, whoever we pick, what comes next? We ask them to quote a certain work scope?
Yes, so I'm going to
We've not
bring
yet
you,
done that.
no, so I'm going to bring you that scope
Okay,
with their proposal, and then you can react to the cost
Okay.
and the proposal.
Okay.
okay.
And that's based on their proposal.
But is
Okay.
it based on the proposal they already sent, or they will revise that?
So in the RFS, there is a scope from overall project down to closing the project.
Right.
And that's like, if you're going to have an OPM do every single thing, we
Right.
said, maybe we'll do that.
Right.
They will give you a proposal for that, or some smaller version of that. Because those are,
But do we have a, so, I thought we've kind of said that we're scoping like Part A, right? From now till town meeting. The town may tell us to take a hike. We're not, are we scoping the rest? We have 2 quotes? How do we evaluate?
we're going to get good question. So we're going to get a proposal for the entire project, but it's going to be in parts.
Okay.
So the first part, the pre-design, as we're
Yeah.
calling it, will be one price.
And we would only contract for the first part.
we will contract for the whole thing, but they're gates.
They're
So
options.
we stop here and then the money
Right, we
stops.
only obligate for the first, yeah, okay.
Okay.
But first, you have to pick the most qualified
Right.
firm.
Right.
So that's what
I
we're
think
doing right
we're-
now.
yeah,
Are we
and
ready to, do we vote on
We'll
it?
try this at home, folks.
So
Is everybody ready to?
Yeah.
Let's vote, 9:30.
Well, would you like to, someone make a motion, I guess, for a vote for the
I
CMS?
move we authorize Ryan to open negotiations with CMS for OPM of the fire station project.
Second.
Do you need anything more? Is that good? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, let's take a roll, not a roll call, let's just do a voice vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay.
Yay, okay, very good. Done with that.
Okay, a little longer than we thought, but
No, this was the
He's right on
plan.
time, he's right on time.
9:30.
Oh, yeah, town
right on time.
administrator. Well, we were going to do a ARPA update, I thought. or
That's
is that the
coming, I
old-
thought you said the
Coming right now.
revised agenda was
9:30.
9:30
I
to
missed-
start
I didn't get
ARPA.
there, yeah.
I didn't either,
Yeah.
but maybe you were out of the room when Brian went
Brian,
over
I
it.
sent you these via
Ooh.
email. So in light of the OPM discussion and just the general calendar, I wanted to provide an update on our ARPA funds and also proposed some motions, which I'll just walk you through. The key thing right now, as we look at, again, just high level, we have to have funds obligated by the end of December. All available funds have to be obligated by the end of December, or you lose them. So we're just in the process of housekeeping, freeing up available funds, identifying funds that aren't going to be used, and then putting them back in the unallocated fund. So as of today, we currently have $119,553 available that could be allocated by the Select Board. That money is, again, unallocated and can be allocated with our vote. Below, and that's about up around 95 last time. We've closed out some projects, and I can take you through those, but basically, about 25,000 was returned to unallocated. I have 4 motions below that we can do tonight, or we can do at a future date. Essentially, these are, actually, I'd like to do the Council on Aging and Human Services one. These are all based on conversations with the project owners, and these are requests that they made and feedback that they provided. So I'm not looking to recommend we take away money from anyone that had money approved and wants to use it. These are all just check-ins and project updates. So for the Council on Aging and Human Services, Carol wanted to take $1,350 that had been approved for nutrition support, which has been spending at a lower than expected rate, and apply it to rental assistance for seniors in need, because she has a couple of new requests. So motion 1 is essentially transferring $1,350 from one of her projects to another project at her request. Motion 2 was based on the current spend on the online mental health counseling. She just projects that she'll have some additional funds that won't be used, and so motion 2 is essentially taking out some of those funds based on her feedback on what would be used. So these are probably motion 1 is one that she would actually like to have approved tonight. And she offered to be here, but I know she's, I think, in transit, and so I just said, no, I can speak to that one. ESC, in the House tonight, I had asked about the remaining balance there, and they had communicated back some of the activities that they still planned, but then said that of what had been approved, they'd have about, well, exactly $602.44 left over. So I was recommending reducing their project budget by that amount so that they can do the things they want to do, and then we can return those funds. And then the last one, I don't know, Ryan, if I had checked in about the remaining funds in the Town Hall Records Management. I know back in August, you were just awaiting any final invoices. I know nothing's come in. If that project is closed, we can either close that out separately, or we can do a motion to zero out the balance. It depends on if you still have a question about if there's outstanding invoices.
There is an outstanding invoice, which is why I haven't answered. I
Okay.
can't get them to send it to me, so.
That's fine. So we won't do motion 4, and what we'll do is a project closeout, which will have the same effect. And then as we look forward to next month, again, we want to get everything closed out going into December so that there's no surprises and we can make sure we use all our funds. The planning board and they had been approved $87,500 for the GIS implementation. Julie is estimating she's going to have up to $16,000 that she won't be able to spend related to digitization of the Board of Health records. That has been delayed or postponed, and so some of the contract work she had planned to use for those funds, she will not be able to spend. So I'm not recommending that tonight. I want to have some more conversations about that, but that's a potential amount that could come back. And then I'm following up with the Board of Health. I haven't followed up with them in a little bit. I know they're running a clinic, a vaccination clinic in November, and we'll see if they have any extra funds at the end of the year for that, and I'll follow up with them in November. And then they stopped the bleed training workshops. There's still $1,200 in balance there, and I'm just going to follow up with Linda and see if they have anything planned for the end of the year.
Comma in the wrong spot.
Oh, do I? What do I? Oh, yeah, 2.8 million, yeah, $2,800. So
Yeah, we're,
that's essentially the universe of adjustments left. And again, there's 3 motions for tonight and then up to 3 or 4 motions in November. But the other thing, just going back, is as we look at the OPM and how we would fund that, if we're going to use ARPA funds, we can commit funds tonight from the unallocated pool if we want to do that or need to do that. Otherwise, we can, again, free up some more funds, and maybe we might have up to around $150,000 in unallocated ARPA that we could apply to OPM or another project.
Might have up to 170,000, I think.
Fair enough,
You got
yeah.
130 and another 35.
Yep.
Do we have any ballpark idea of, I mean, this is going to your second page, right? Does that,
The second page is just the request form.
but we have no idea how much they're going to come back with. But we would deploy all remaining, the idea would be after you flush all of these, that would be sort of our last project.
If it comes in under, we would have extra funds that we'd want to allocate.
Right, okay, sure. Right, but I mean, likely that would be then, you sweep everything up in one last request, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. What we don't want to do is get into December and realize, oh, we have all this money, where can we
Right.
spend it? I think we have plenty of places we can spend it.
Right.
My goal is to close it all out, have funds available tonight if we needed to, if we wanted to authorize, I don't know if it matters, but if we wanted to authorize ARPA funding so that there's actual funding in place when you enter the negotiations?
That won't matter
Okay.
unless we start.
Okay, but we have
Prior to
time,
November
we have
12th.
meetings to do that, right?
Yeah, well, and I don't want to hold up the process either okay.
We have the contract, so it won't happen in the next 3 weeks.
Okay. So I would just recommend, at minimum, I would do motions 1 and 2 tonight, and then we can do housekeeping another
Might
night.
as well do 3.
Okay.
yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
You want a motion made, or?
Move to approve ARPA funding for nutrition support for seniors in need, project 54106 to be reduced by the amount of $1,350 to a total of $35,650, and ARPA funding for rental assistance for seniors in need, project 54105, be increased $1,350 to a total of $68,870. Should I do all 3 motions? Or do
Sure, go ahead.
Sure.
And I additionally move that the select board approve ARPA funding for online mental health counseling COVID program, project 54103 be reduced $2,000 to a total of $9,500. And that the select board approve ARPA funding for Route to Sustainability Earth Day event, April 2023, project number 19801 to be reduced $602.44 to a total of $7,397.56.
Second.
Okay, does anyone object to voting on all 3 motions at the same time?
No.
Seeing none, Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
And none opposed.
One special call out, thanks to Kelly Byer for all of her help, continued help, both administering this and staying up to date with all the rules and regulations. She's been a great help and an asset to this
I
process.
do have one quick question following up. Will we have to have another audit, and is that covered?
We, as she informed me today, so we already allocated funds for the next audit. She did say that we can be audited up to the year 2033 for ARPA, but I don't think she's requesting additional audit funds. I'm going to meet with her at some point between now and November just to go through all this and see if there's anything else we need from an accounting standpoint.
Well, we can cover that through,
Yeah,
other
but
funds.
we've already approved it for the next.
Because we have, we can't encumber those funds, so
No, and we don't want to.
we can't put them into.
We don't want them sitting there,
Right.
right, if we don't need them.
Exactly. Okay. I just wanted to be sure that.
Yeah.
that-
But I want to sit down with her at some point and just go through everything to make sure we're not missing anything.
All right, if we're nothing more, let's go to the town administrator's report.
Okay, great. If you can communicate to your liaisons for Scott and the town that once these funds are allocated, these ARPA funds, that they need to be spent and spent first. So these aren't things you can hold. So the boards and committees and the programs, they have to spend this money first after this deadline. Otherwise, we're giving it back.
Yeah, and I'm in touch with them.
Yeah.
So, is it anybody besides COAHS?
What's that?
Anybody besides COAHS that needs to be told?
Well, the DPW, the vehicle, like that needs to be, there was an email today about what obligated means, and obligated is not simply the select board approves it. It needs to be, like, for example, vehicle, I got the sense we have to actually have the order in.
And we do.
Okay, so there's a few projects, but honestly, I have my eye on all the remaining projects, and they're all in pretty good shape. And most of them, the large ones, like the HVAC, that's all work in progress. It's been contracted out, obligated, and should be completed.
And the chair of the ESC is here, so she knows that.
Yeah. Spend your $875. Yeah, no, it's a manageable list at this point. I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
All right, so for my report, we have a first draft of the first floor remodel. Just want to take you through just some of the concerns. So we want to make sure the COHS employees have enough space and there's enough drop-in space for short-term pilot and work-through of drop-in hours for seniors. We also want to make sure the town clerk is accessible and has enough space and is close enough to the vault over in the town clerk area. One of the major challenges is the town clerk area has become the holding area for all records that have not been digitized in the overflow of the vault. So the new town clerk should be able to clean out a significant amount of the vault and move some of that in, but the digitization of all town hall records, we are modeling around that right now. So that continues to be a hindrance to several of your goals, to include proper employee space and transparency and access, and then also succession planning. So I'm only pointing these things out so you can see how all the pieces work together.
So it's the one department that we've mentioned before on the digitization.
It's all the land use boards. So we've worked on historical commission, Board of Health records upstairs, and the Conservation Commission has a ton of records, as you can imagine.
Okay.
They're not shy about saying that. And then Zoning Board of Appeals we're working on getting digitized right now, because those are under control of Julie and John, and then John's finishing the planning board records. So all of it does work together. And assessing as well, but they kind of get forgot because they get contained in their little area.
Right. So I'm just going back to the ARPA money that was allocated for digitization. That's covering what Ryan is saying is underway, and it's what's not underway that's being returned.
Just my records. So we offer digitization to every department, and
Right.
none of them took it up.
Okay.
Which absolutely floors me.
Yeah,
I
that
just say
makes
that
no
right out
sense.
loud.
Yeah.
In any substantial way. There was a couple of small boxes that were just.
But probably not the time to take this up now, but perhaps in a future meeting. We just went through this big at least the first of two, very successful, in my opinion. Thank you to Julie for organizing and the planning board, the MBTA open house. There's a lot going on, and it seems to me as we move to the step of maybe qualifying or characterizing those regions that have been identified, that analog records that are sitting there get digitized and mapped. And why can't we force that issue? Like, it's amazing to me that we're doing all this work on one side and then these other people doing nothing. Like, I really feel like, again, not at 9:45, but at I would ask the chairman to put that on, and if we need a joint meeting with the Board of Health, let's get a joint meeting. This is ridiculous. I agree with Kate completely.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
HR update from the Assistant Town Administrator. Almost 20 applicants for the town clerk position, which I think indicates that we've priced it well, that it's an attractive job, and that we're going to get a high-quality candidate. We've also received applications for the COHS Transportation Services Coordinator and the Facilities Technician, so to be determined. We are still seeking heavy equipment operators. We did make an offer to someone who chose a different town. They had multiple offers at the same time, so I've asked to interview that person and glean lessons learned. It'll be a small focus group, obviously, and only one person, but we are struggling to get heavy equipment operators. We've had significant failures in all the attempts we've made to make offers here. Okay, fall outreach. I was a judge for the Carlisle PTO trunk or treat. I brought my son. He took it very seriously.
Did you rank them based on set criteria?
We did. And we sat down.
Very responsive, sort of responsive.
And I mean in the funniest way, but we didn't complain. We just did it. We went through the process.
Didn't they know why they were there?
Right.
I was joined by Jen from the library, Holly from recreation, and Jim O'Shea, superintendent of schools. We had a good time, and hundreds of people there. Carlisle does a great job at these small events, bringing in big crowds. I'm also going to the Revolutionary Grave marker installation at the Central Burying Ground on Sunday, October 27th. I know at least Travis is joining me because he's
As am I.
a key speaker.
I hope to join.
I'm not key, I'm ace.
It's a significant thing. They're going to install these markers and then march to the cemetery and do another ceremony at the cemetery. So, very cool event. And then I'll let you guys speak to this at a different time, but the select board started their office hours initiatives. We're hoping to learn lessons from that, what length it should be, if it's successful, frequency, et cetera, and add that to our yearly outreach calendar. And then I'm scheduling my own winter outreach now, so that we'll have time. Okay, budget update. I gave you a memorandum for discussion on Thursday at your meeting on Thursday, which is duly posted for budget discussions that will inform the budget letter that goes to departments. Kelly and I have finalized the draft that will then include your goals and be sent to departments for return by December 3rd, and this will officially kick off the FY26 budget. Key decision point for you, for the board to make, hopefully by Thursday, is when annual town meeting is going to be. That's key for planning for the planning board and many of their initiatives, and then also our back calendar.
And be aware, Concord is in June this year because of the 250th.
June,
So they're, I think, June 8th.
Well, it's attached to their schedule.
Yeah,
here.
so
So we had set April 28th. The moderator reminded me that Carlisle does not schedule town meetings for after school vacation, so we're looking at the first week.
we will be ahead of we will be ahead of them this year.
Well, but.
What happens if they amend their school budget at town meeting?
Well, the school budget timeline is also
June 2 is Concord.
Delayed, not delayed. They're usually about a month ahead of us, and now they're about a month behind our old schedule. I think it'll work fine with our current schedule, but yeah, everything's been pushed back in Concord for the 250. Interesting.
So I think we should put a date on the.
Well, let's
table,
talk about
right?
it Thursday.
Yeah.
Let's not do it.
Should come with a date Thursday. It's going to be one of the first 2 Mondays in May, likely.
And have you asked the moderator about either one of those, or you need someone from this group to ask him?
From what I remember, he said those dates were fine, but we
So,
can reach out.
I'm sorry, I may have misunderstood you then. I thought you said that the moderator said we never did it after April vacation.
The week after.
The week after,
Or
he
the
doesn't,
week after.
it's the
Yeah.
Monday after vacation.
Late,
Yeah, right,
late
no,
break.
yes, yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
April 28th is
Right.
this year. Vacation's later this year.
Yeah,
So
okay.
the first
So we could
Monday
do-
in May would be May 5th.
May 5th.
Ooh, Cinco de Mayo.
Yep, and the
Cocktails.
next Monday would be the
Yeah.
12th.
Margaritas and budget.
We're gonna need like
Right
We're gonna need
after.
them, to be honest.
we're gonna need about
Mother's Day.
4 nights this year. Let's get ready for that.
No.
This is a stacked agenda. You don't think?
And we can't do the 26th and
2 nights.
Let's not do
Definitely
that,
2
guys,
nights.
let's do that on Thursday.
Well, but I.
No, I think it's
I think
helpful
it's
to
helpful
zero
to
in
zero
on at
in,
least a
even if
couple
we don't-
options,
right.
yeah.
May 5th. May 5th and 6th.
I think it's possible it's 2 nights.
No, I think it will be 2
Will
nights.
be, yeah.
I think we should plan on 2 nights.
So 12, 13, all right, maybe. We have a select board meeting on the 13th normally. That would be, and we would have one in April. We'd have one on the 8th and the 22nd, so we'd probably want to move our schedule and meet on the 6th and have this town meeting on 12 and 13 if we didn't want to.
Well, we can move our, that's fine.
Then we got Easter.
Yeah, well, we have to, that's why.
Yeah, where
think
is
about-
Easter?
Think about all the
20th,
other
her
holidays.
birthday's on the 22nd, so you.
Of May,
Yeah, so we.
okay.
Route to sustainability
April.
26th, probably.
on
Of
the 26th.
April.
Yeah, take out, it's gotta be
Yeah.
5th or
2/6, so
12th.
that's
So
that
May 5th
Saturday.
to the 12th.
Hey, let me
seems
ask a
like-
question, though. Is there any, has anybody, I guess you're on the committee, is there any proposal
We
coming
might.
out of the town meeting
Well,
group to make some
We might want to do the
change?
weekend, yeah, we might.
That's what I was wondering,
That's right,
so.
yeah, well, so I believe that we should have the discussion with FinCom more generically about if we lead Concord, is there any risk that Concord votes something different that materially changes our budget? Ordinarily, we trail Concord, so we know all the facts when we come to meeting.
Right.
I think that's what we should think about first, and then we can feather in. I think deciding between 2 Mondays in May right now is premature, personally, since they've come out with their calendar.
Okay. Ryan had suggested we need to do this. Is there, what's the,
Well, we're having a meeting Thursday. I'm not saying delay it. I'm just saying
Oh,
it's
okay.
not just, we have to think about what the impact, it's never been in my 20-something years that we were before Concord, never. And
Yeah.
Concord sometimes votes things
Although
that
we
actually
did
change
talk
what we,
about jumping up in front of them last year.
I'm happy to have a conversation. I'd just rather have it,
We got scooped.
yeah.
June's late, I mean, June.
Yeah.
June is late, but they've,
Well, also, the way we do it, our town elections have to be, how
everybody has
much
the same.
after that?
Before June 30, everybody has to be voted in.
Before June 30,
After
but
town
don't we have to
meeting.
have a certain amount of space between town meeting and the election?
It's like a,
5 days or
yeah, it's a
something.
short amount.
Okay, but you could still get it in if we waited
We'd have to do
until
it the
June.
first week, and we'd have to, I don't know, concurrently or something, I don't know.
In the COVID time, didn't we delayed it, right?
Yeah, but the whole budget, everything was,
But we still made it before June, we'll make it before June 30. Anyway, okay.
The 9th looks like it's like our drop dead date.
okay, it looks like the 5th, 6th, or 12th, 13th. I'm sending Wayne an email.
Oh, this is to go in May, not to wait till June?
Right. I
Okay.
just wanted to double check with him.
Yeah, sure.
If there's anyone else that.
I'll talk
need
to him
reach-
as well.
What?
I will talk to him. We will,
Because you should ask
Our
him
me-
about
our
whether
committee
the
will-
governance
we have to make a
committee is
deci-
going to
we had-
seriously
right.
recommend a weekend.
I think we've had enough input from boards and committees now that we can have that deliberation. We
Okay.
have not yet had, we've talked about it loosely, but it
How
sounds like
soon?
it's, well, soon, I guess, next meeting. It sounds like
Would-
next week, I guess.
Not till next week.
No, I mean,
we could,
You have to post it, yeah.
Bonnie, it's October. I know he wants to get it done.
it's not gonna be earlier than what anyone, it's not like we're looking to pull it in, so I don't
Right.
think any of these dates are gonna be a problem
Right.
for the
Yeah.
budget
Right,
process.
right.
Later is okay, as long, if we were discussing early April, that might be an issue, but
Yeah.
all these dates should be fine.
Yeah.
All right, online donations. The Cultural Council has withdrawn their request, so we're no longer building a pilot. They're going to use services provided by the Community Foundation for Metro West, which will manage a dedicated fund for donors to contribute from any financial source. So this includes donor-advised funds, personal checks, credit cards, and more. So they'll be getting funds directly from them for their programming. Kind of it's similar to a Friends of, but it's this particular group is for a lot of nonprofits, not just one.
I don't know why we didn't think of that before. I think that's a great solution, and I think a lot of our,
They had to do some work to, I haven't caught up with Mark, but I know it wasn't like they had to
They
do
had to
some
speak with
legwork
council.
to figure out that they could do this. 'Cause
okay.
I forget I don't know all the machinations of it, but not everyone can use these groups. You have
Okay.
to meet some.
So some good news, we talked to you about a vehicle for the facilities department, purchasing it using FY25 funds. Aubrey was able to secure through some significant work a Maya grant for $10,000 to offset that cost.
Nice.
Justifying it through reduction of risk at the school with the smaller vehicle and
That's great.
good work.
Great. Found money.
So my working group established a contract with Sprague Energy for 1 year, combining 4 CPS accounts and 6 town accounts. This secured a new contract rate of 8.7 cents per decatherm for 12 months. We had Sarah work on this to assess green options. Spoiler alert, there's only 3 providers in New England and natural gas isn't that green.
Yeah.
So we did our best, but overall the procurement is in the best interest financially. And we only signed a year to see where the market's going. So it was really low, COVID, and it spiked up. It's coming back down, and now this is setting us up for hopefully a reduction in the next year. But, you know, there's that election and other things that are going to cause significant changes, so we'll see. All right, OPEB presentation, Financial Oversight Working Group. I invited David and Mark to review the OPEB actuary study and liability and trust funds with us. We are 27.86% funded, putting Carlisle in the 80 and 90th percentile for Massachusetts. Definitely much higher for small towns.
Yeah.
This is a 6% increase in our funding ratio, so this is good news, and that comes from employee experience and favorable interest rates. So the working group's recommendation is to the Finance Committee is to maintain our current level of OPEB funding. And I included that report for your review. It was decided that you probably didn't need a full presentation, but just that report. Holiday hours. I am recommending that the select board offer town employees additional holiday hours in the coming months. It's a weird year with Christmas and New Year's falling on a Wednesday. So I'm recommending that we close town hall and non-essential buildings on December 24th and 31st. This includes compensating employees that need to fill necessary shifts, so that's police and dispatch, and any fire calls that come up. I think building usage will be really low and limited in those days, and I think if you were to ask employees what they wanted for a gift, it would be time with their families on those days, so that's my recommendation to you.
So they would come in on a Monday and be off on a Tuesday and Wednesday in both?
If they wanted more time, they would take accrued time.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Okay, capital projects. Greeno Barn project is now final. We're working on a public presentation to include in video with our land use team. The Corey Auditorium lighting project is now substantially complete as of Monday. There's a couple of small installations still needed, but the auditorium is open with approved lighting and safety. We will also have a video and presentation for you on that. A dog park is continuing along and still on track to be open later this fall. Tree work finalized in the central burying ground on Sunday. This opened sight lines and removed limbs that were endangering historic markers. Next, the grave restoration folks and the Litchfield Seat Repair Company will come in and fix those projects, hopefully before the holiday season. The cost of this would require, they almost had enough, but they're going to need a little bit more money, and they're likely to request CPC funding for repairing the entrance stones. So if you're at Ferns and you're walking directly into the cemetery, that opening, there's 3 stones there that need to be fixed and repointed.
what size of project is that, approximately, just out of curiosity?
The total,
Yeah, well, no, just that last one that they need, that they.
30,000.
30, okay. That's more-
They're nice stones.
They better be.
Yeah.
10,000 apiece.
Wow.
So they had about 20,
Yeah.
so they're missing 10. So
Yeah.
it's already been approved,
Okay.
most of it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so they're looking for 10
10
more, is what
more.
I'm asking.
Ish.
Because I'm just wondering, instead of having to wait, if we could just say,
ARPA?
ARPA,
This is where we get in trouble.
We're getting in trouble.
Right, we start spending.
I don't know what their
No, because we
timeline
can't-
is. I mean, we can, I would,
They were totally fine waiting until, it's not a
They're
dire.
not going to
Okay,
get to it
fine.
for the winter,
Okay.
right?
nobody's going in.
All right.
Okay, MFC's contracted with the mechanical house doctor engineers to assess construction and conditions and construction documents for the library HVAC coils. This was approved in your capital plan and will be rolled into the renovation to save hopefully time and money. They're also working with the Recreation Commission using FY25 funds to replace the HVAC system in the brick building, which will likely use FY25 funds from the Recreation Revolving Fund backstopped by the MFC. So they're continuing to do good work, and I just want to report you on that. Lieutenant Newman and the fire department procured their new garage bay heaters, and those will be installed early next month. That's also a capital plan. Construction projects, Library Building Committee will discuss and finalize their CMS proposal for OPM services on Friday. Police Station Renovation Committee met last Friday and approved a proposal to bring to you, which you have for your meeting on Thursday for final approval or adjustment. And then we did a lot of work on Fire Station OPM tonight, so I won't touch that. Discussion points for you to review, town hall hours, your discussion with the COHS at your next meeting, town clerk appointment, the climate resilient policies presentation that's coming. Julie and team are coming before you to talk about MVP and other related climate policy changes that may or may not be coming and that need your input. And then your tax classification hearing is scheduled for November 26th. We approved a banner at the north end of the town common advertising the Mosquitoes annual campaign. It'll be there from November 18th to December 2nd. Trick-or-treating hours were set by Chief Amendola for October 31st from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., and we made sure to let him know not to mess that up. We'll be communicating those hours to the public. If I didn't have my own kids, I would love to come here. It looks like a really good time in Carlisle, but I would be divorced, so.
Bring your kids, good candy here.
I would like to recognize Town Planner for staff recognition, Julie, and our new Planning and Zoning Land Use Assistant, Noel, for their MBT Communities Housing outreach and update, specifically their open house that was held last week, which saw over 100 people. The planning board designed 2 open houses with the goals of exchanging information, gathering feedback, and refining mapping. Julie and Noel held one-on-one conversations, explained MBTA efforts, and gathered information to inform the planning board's final recommendations. In my opinion, this is how public service should be done, with a lot of input from the community and the staff listening and recommending things to the elected and appointed boards. The department's willingness to share information and answer resident questions will pay dividends during what we just talked about, the annual town meeting likely.
I want to say that there were a lot of people that came that didn't understand that this was still a work in progress and assumed that they were coming to see a fait accompli. So I'd just like to remind everybody again, that I do agree with you, what you said, Ryan, that we're trying to get people used to the idea that we're actually asking them for input and help with looking at various options, and that we're not making decisions. They're going to want, we're trying to just give them the information that they're going to need for making a decision down the line at town meeting.
So is the working group going to make any changes in the overlay proposal before the November, whatever it is, Saturday open house?
Indubitably.
Well, no, I'm just asking that, is that the idea? They would make some adjustments based on the input, or?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, and
So that, might be, they should, well, I'm sure they're doing, I'm sure Julie's on top of it, but the new publicity for that date should include, right?
It was already, yeah, it will.
No, it should, but not the postcard we got, but right, the new publicity for the Saturday. Oh, yeah, that's right, you're on the committee.
Yes.
Right, should include making it clear that this will be, there'll be some revisions of the overlay
I don't know if we're going to
plan.
send a new postcard, but I guess we'll have to.
No, I'm
discuss
not
that,
saying
but-
you should, I'm just
Okay.
saying in whatever publicity you
Yeah.
send out for
Okay.
it. And also to really remind people of your point, which is, this is a work in progress.
It
This
is
is
a work
not
in
the final
progress.
plan,
That's-
yeah.
this is- And I also wanted to say, because Ryan mentioned the MVP presentation, we actually talked today, and I'm sorry for slipping in my liaison report to yours, Brian, but we thought maybe we'd do a twofer and have an MBTA update for this board at the same time.
Sure.
Oh, for the agenda, when it comes up.
When it comes up on the agenda.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Because we think it's important. Tomorrow at the Board of Health, there's going to be an MBTA presentation to that board, because we're trying to keep all the boards and committees in the loop as well as how ideas are evolving as we go and getting more input so that we don't go off into some direction that people don't want us to go in.
That is my report.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're towards the end of the meeting. Unless, do we have to approve minutes?
Yeah, we do have a set in here.
Set in here.
Yeah.
You all have a chance to look at those?
Yeah, I
The-
looked over
The
'em.
meeting minutes of October 8th.
Move approval of the meeting minutes of October 8th as presented.
A second, anyone?
I sent a very minor change about the spelling of my name to Gretchen. No big deal.
Okay.
So do you second it with?
Oh,
the
yeah, of
amend-
course, I'll second it
And with the,
with the correction of the spelling of Barney
all
at
right.
the end.
Perfect. All right, any further discussion? All in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
None opposed. All right. Liaison reports, it's kind of late. I think we should.
Just have one
Okay,
quick
go for
pitch,
it,
which
Barney.
I sent you guys the flyer today. Next Tuesday, the CPC is holding their first ever, I believe, even though we're supposed to have been doing this every year. There it is. A community hearing here to have people provide their ideas about how they'd like to see CPA funds spent in the future. And if people already have specific ideas of something they might want to propose, that we give them some feedback on eligibility, and a very brief sort of review of the act and how it works in Carlisle. So,
And what's the
and
date
that's
again? I'm sorry, I missed that.
the date. It's next Tuesday, the 29th, from 6:30 to 8 here in the Clark Room. And there'll be light refreshments.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. Nice.
Tuesday the 29th, at what time?
Yep, 6:30 to 8.
All right.
Yeah,
So it's not
thank you.
open house, it's a presentation now.
All right. We're towards the end of the meeting, and if there are any public comments, seeing none in the room.
I got one, real quick.
Oh, you haven't done
Should have done this at the beginning. Thursday, class of 2027, sixth grade spaghetti supper at the school
Thursday,
this week.
This
oh,
week.
this week,
Yes.
2 days from now.
Yes.
Okay,
So Carlisle MA PTO. If you go there, just Google spaghetti supper Carlisle. You
Okay.
can buy tickets online. Starts at 5. Great event.
and when are your office hours, or have you
My
already done
office-
them?
I didn't want to share that, but my office hours are tomorrow from 10 to 11:30, I believe.
You should post something on City in the Woods.
Yeah, you should.
Do you know how to do that?
I don't know, I'm not even on.
No, I'm not.
You want me to do it for you?
No,
No?
You want people to come talk to you.
no, I'm kidding. Sure, I don't.
It was worthwhile.
Oh no, I've already done one of the coffees. We had a bunch
Yeah.
of people show up, so I just assume they show up.
So it's not tomorrow, it's tomorrow, you said?
Yeah, I can check.
Okay.
It is tomorrow, 10 to 11:30.
10 to 11:30.
10 to 11:30.
Town hall. Where am I?
The healed room
Healed room.
upstairs, yeah. Okay.
Yep. Bring refreshments.
You will have refreshments. Gretchen has done a wonderful job.
It's Gretchen.
It's in
Well,
shape, yeah.
I don't know, but the refreshments. for-
Miriam does it. She's doing it with-
Okay.
if Gretchen's out.
All right.
Plenty of refreshments.
Okay.
All right. So back to community input. Seeing none in the room, I look online and I see Mr.
John.
Lavery. Can you?
I'm the only one here, I think.
Yeah, but can you?
I
up
figured
your
out how to raise
sound?
my hand. I don't know how to put it back down.
John, can you up your sound a little bit?
I don't. 1 second. I'll try. Can you hear me now?
Just speak into your microphone a little closer.
How about that? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you that well
We can
enough.
hear you. We'll listen intently.
Okay, so my initial comment still kind of stands where am concerned about not having a good measurement system or standard for the fire department as a precursor to this whole project. The discussion today was really about construction and construction management, and there was a very small discussion about stakeholder input and getting all the town people or all the fire team, as one group said it, to say something. And I think what you guys have done have put that off onto the committee, that they are going to be the ones that define the feature set for this whole project. That feature set will include what you guys want for the fire department. I think that's what you've done. It was a little confusing, and I think the contractors here tonight had a little confused about who's going to do that and who's going to run that process. So, okay, that could still work, but then the committee selection becomes important because if all you do is get people that agree with Chief Soros on what the fire department should be and what he wants, then you're going to get a gold-plated fire department with a lot of features you don't need. So I can suggest that when you do staff that committee, you look for people that might have different views or are willing to look outside the box a little bit from what Chief Soros wants for the department. Because in conversation with him and in correspondence with you guys, I have pointed out what I think are, he's got a bunch of stuff he doesn't need, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And there's no third-party check on him that I can see. No, there's no third-party professional that's reviewing this process. The guys that you're hiring tonight, they're just going to say, what do you want? Okay, here's how we build it. So who does that cost-benefit analysis? Who sets the feature list, the feature set for the fire department for what the town wants?
Great. Well, thanks for that input, John, and we'll take that under advisement. All right.
Thanks, Travis.
Yep. Is there anything else? I see no other public comment. Anything else? So why don't I take a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're done.
So are we
Thank
meeting
you.
in person or virtually on Thursday morning?
In person.